funny. Oh,
Okay, we are live. Welcome everyone to the Floating Comic Book Chat, which is back on my channel this Sunday. I've got the wonderful Rasa, the equally wonderful ComicKkrakk or slabbed crack. Sorry, slabbed
That's right.
crack.
yeah.
You've been slabbed and then cracked, I guess.
Yeah, that's right.
And we are here to talk about what we read this week and anything else we feel like talking about. Which might be might be
it might be that's
Eternals.
Right.
That's right. Yeah.
We're gonna go fight.
Yeah.
You ready?
No, we're not gonna fight. No. We don't need to fight.
Oh, first mention, I watched Boba Fett and I fall asleep to that episode you actually loved. I literally fall asleep.
Sorry.
I was like,
Remind me.
what the fuck
me
was
which
that?
one? Remind me which one?
Not this week's came out, the week before.
Oh, the one before.
The one when we had a conversation and you were saying, oh yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed it. And I was like,
well, let's just put that into comparison. I enjoyed it more than episode 3. Did you watch this last Wednesday's one? The Mandalorian show?
Oh no, I didn't. No,
it's good.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, it's good.
Because at what I couldn't believe how bored I was.
Yeah.
I was like,
it's a real wave. Like it's a real wave.
Yeah.
It really hit a dip there. Like that episode 3 and episode 3 and episode 4 just really hit a dip. That's like, what the heck? But whatever.
My husband tried to convince me. Robert Rodriguez. He's kind of doing the same kind of thing. He does really good wrestling. He tried to convince me that he's now convinced that actual actors have the problem, not the show itself. I was like, subject is not. I mean,
it's always a mix of everything. Yeah. One of the things we ended up watching after watching the new episode yesterday is there's a whole bunch of videos on YouTube with the composer, because he did the music for Black Panther. He did the music for this one. He's done the music for a bunch, and it was really cool, actually. There's a couple of, I don't know, they're like 6 to 8 minute videos on YouTube. Well worth watching, just about his kind of process of making this music. And it was cool to see kind of the work that he put into Black Panther and the research that he did. And, but the stuff for the Mandalorian, like literally just locking himself in his studio for a month and just writing a whole bunch of stuff to then transcribe it for the orchestra. I think it was a 70-piece orchestra, I think is what he said. It was either Black Panther or Boba Fett, where they recorded at Abbey Road Studios. I think that might have been Black Panther. I don't remember, but those are cool to watch. Just seeing that process, because that side of it doesn't often get talked about when they kind of do behind the scenes for TV shows and stuff. It's pretty rare that they talk to the composer and you see that process, right? So it was worth watching though if you dig on the YouTubes.
I didn't. We haven't. We haven't watched the last episode of Boba Fett yet because of that previous one. I just I woke up and it's like, oh, you finished already. It's like my husband, yeah, you didn't miss anything. So I napped. Totally. So that's how much I enjoyed that one. That was great. Good nap, definitely.
That's the same. I'm the same with it though, right? Like I could honestly leave it at this point. I feel like we've watched it and I should finish it, but honestly, I could leave it now. I like the first 2, but like, it's just one of those things. TV is such a hard sell for me anyway. Like it's a really hard sell. I'm just not as into it like I used to be. So it's pretty difficult to get me to sit and watch anything beyond YouTube. You know what I mean? Because I'll watch YouTube all day and I'll, do all this stuff all day. But watching a show, it's an investment, right? So I'm kind of at the point where, maybe I just wait until it's all done and we sit and watch everything at once and see how it goes.
Yeah, I think it's this Boba Fett is really not. So like the creators and everything, John Favreau is still involved with everything. He writes the story in there as well. So it seems to be everybody's doing great things, but it's just this one. It just seems to be something. It's just I don't know.
Something's not working.
It's not only us. That's the thing. We're only 2 people who's actually watching it. There's lots of people complaining about it as well. But it's just one of the shows to talk about, I guess. But then talking about the Eternals, the movie, I am probably like 1.1% people who actually enjoyed watching it.
Yeah. There's a few people that really, really enjoyed it. I've heard talks on a couple of different shows and things.
Yeah. So we started watching it and I was like, okay, it started to kind of like cheesy. it's I don't know how you felt about it. It felt very religious, the way the portrayal of them was
absolutely, 100%.
placed upon, and then also the creator of the Eternals. He was the main like god, sentinel, or because they, you know, and the way they decided to become upon the earth, and how they decided to deal with a birth of some other sentinel was. I mean, acting wasn't mind-blowing. Kit Harington, who is supposed to be the cheese of the creme de la creme of the actors, was there as just I don't know, a distraction.
Shit actors, man. Yeah.
And then other ones weren't bad to me. I like the main, the Cersei, is that her main character?
Sure, yeah.
She was the one who I actually enjoyed the most watching, and she was the main character. It's like, okay, so that's in a way, but in general, like, the movie had everything. Whatever I've watched movies lately, there is. They say complaining about longevity of the movie. It's 2.5 hours. It's all movies now 2.5 hours. So I don't know what
totally
people complain about the length of the movie.
Well, it must have felt longer than the average 2.5 hours.
That's the thing. It felt long to us when we saw it in the theater. Because I mean, I agree with you. I love the long time frame for these movies. I actually I really enjoy that because I feel like it gives you more time and to be in that zone and everything. So I really dig that. But this one felt like, oh my God, that must have been 3.5 hours. It really felt long because it was just like the ideas behind it were super neat. Like the whole concept behind it, I didn't have a problem with. It's just the actors and the dialogue and the kind of acting. They didn't seem to like. The one thing that it seemed to be missing for me was that there was this with the Marvel movies, especially. There's a real chemistry that happens with the actors, and you can kind of see that translate. It didn't feel like there was that same chemistry. Not that there was none of it, but it just didn't feel like there was that kind of chemistry where I legitimately got the feeling that, wow, I wonder what that set was like, because it really feels like these two actors just don't even like each other as people and are just kind of really being put in these positions. You know, like what's her name? Brad Pitt's ex-wife there, whatever the hell her name
Angelina Jolie.
And the woman that she's the guy that she's kind of with there, their relationship was so odd. She was an odd character for sure. Don't get me wrong, but there didn't seem to be that much chemistry. You know, it was kind of forced.
Yeah, but her character in general, she had to be that kind of weirdo, completely non-conversational person because of what the circumstances actually.
Right.
She only one who we would say was more sane than anybody else there who believed in that. Whatever pissed me off the first part of the movie, Selma Hayek was the draw for me because I like the woman.
Selma, that name sounds familiar. Selma.
Yeah, the boobs.
Hayek,
the boobs,
is that what you said? Oh, Selma
yeah. So she was the draw because I'm always kind of fascinated to see where they're gonna put her, especially in the movies like this, you know, like big blockbusters, blah blah blah. How she gonna fit in? And that was curiosity. And then they kill her. Like in a couple of scenes later, she's dead. It's like, what? Nobody told me that. But thankfully they came back.
That'd be a spoiler.
Yeah, well, sorry about that.
Yeah, no, it's okay.
It's not people are gonna go crazy about it anyway. So, spoiler alert, she dies. But then she lives through the memories of other people. She's still kind of alive in their head. But she was good. And then from the, as far as I know, the comic wise, I'm not really. I haven't finished all Eternals from Jack Kirby, unfortunately. I don't have them because they were going into price. I never get hold of them. But as far as I know, her character is supposed to be a male in the comic books, which was, I don't know if it was significant or not. But anyway, talking about her acting was in moments where she had them, that was great, but she wasn't, as I say, she was just a memory actor. Wasn't really a person who... and it's funny because you have two main characters, well, not main characters, one of the main characters, he's both of those actors, like I'm talking Keith Harington and the main guy, Icarus. They are from the Games of Thrones, so they both acted together. But then when you have them together, actually, you know, like the resentment, it felt like more resentment of actual actors together than actually the characters we were playing, which was very interesting to see. And anyway, so I think what this, in general, is the story was okay, to be honest, for the movie. And I'm actually intrigued what they would do to them because they supposedly have like fixed a little bit of Marvel timeline in the movies, apparently, but I'm not sure where that timeline actually will be fitting with them. And they apparently in the movies you saw that at the end of the scene they changed to what I watched in Disney Plus.
Oh, okay.
You know, the end credits. So end credits, I saw the English singer who's becoming an actor. Seems to be. He's going to be appearing as a Thanos brother. That's the extras we got from the Disney Plus. And you guys had. What did you had in cinema?
Fuck if I can remember. Honestly, I really can't remember. But I'm sure it wasn't that though. I'm pretty sure it wasn't that. So but now that you're asking, I actually don't remember.
Yeah. So anyway, so they changed the extras at the end.
Oh wow! Yeah.
For Disney Plus and for people who went to cinema. So that's kind of interesting. Anyway, so as I say, in general, I honestly didn't dislike it. I watched as a comic book movie, like all Marvels, not much expectation. It wasn't really funny either. They don't have that tone, and I think what people maybe had a problem with that. You know, like usually Marvel movies had that tonal of happiness, and this one is more miserable than anything else.
Yeah, for sure.
But in that Kkrakk character, he's Black Knight, and I wanted to maybe you guys, or maybe Damien or you, Terrence, have a bit more verse in the Marvel universe. What Black Knight and who is he? I know he came into Avengers. I know he was part of that, but what is he? What is his powers? Is he just like a?
Sometimes he's just like a knight with a flying sword. I mean, a flying horse.
Yeah.
Horse, yeah.
Yeah.
Lately, they've had him that he has a cursed sword that feeds off of anger or something and gives him a lot of power that way.
So is he like?
They've changed him a number of times, is what I'm trying to say.
So
sometimes he's a guy who comes from King Arthur's time period.
Yeah,
that's what it was in Defenders. Yeah,
and then other times it's like he's a modern guy who is reincarnation of it or something. I'm not sure why they keep switching him around.
Right. So I'm just catching up to the chat in the side, and Tommy Nicodemus, are you guys talking? Is there a new Diabolik out there?
That's
is that what they're
Tommy's
talking
saying
about?
in Italy?
Shit, yeah, man.
But he's thinking that we won't get it over here except on DVD.
Right.
I don't know anything about it. And then he says they're already filming a sequel.
Oh, mama, that's exciting news. I love the Bava Danger Diabolik is so fantastic. It's so great.
Yeah.
Yeah, that one there from 68, yeah.
So yeah, that you would think that should be bigger news, but I guess it's an obscure movie for most people.
Yeah. Mario Bava and then Morricone does a fantastic score for it, like really, really badass. And there's what the heck are they called? There's a Bandcamp band, and I'm blanking on the name. Maybe Gore Vidal can help me. I sent him a link. Something Morricone Youth, I think, is what they're called. They do a version of it because it was never officially released on an official album. So this newer band does the music for Danger Diabolik and put it up on Bandcamp, and it's well worth listening to. They do a really nice rendition of Morricone music, similar kind of style, similar feel, similar instrumentation and things, just a little more modern recordings and stuff. It sounds really fantastic.
That sounds cool.
So interesting that they coming out with some movie we don't, in some places, we're not even gonna be able to watch.
So is the Black Knight in the Eternals? I'm sorry if I spaced out how he came up.
No, he is there, but it's not there. It's just they introduced the character and they now telling us that he's gonna be our new Black Knight for foreseeable whatever movie.
So that makes sense then, that Marvel keeps changing who the Black Knight is, so they keep having new ones, I guess.
Yeah, so I'm
just most excited to opening up the cosmic universe, you know what I mean? Like the Marvel cosmic stuff, because some of those cosmic scenes where they had that big robot-looking creator or whatever, I thought that stuff was phenomenal. But I always loved the kind of cosmic and the space stuff that they do with the Marvel movies, the CG and everything. And those ideas, that's the part that I'm most excited about. Opening up that world, I think, will be a lot of fun.
Yeah, I think the weak part was that I think the Eternals was a long time basically made into Marvel universe, because you have all the movies you can come out, you have this all like 10-year expansion of this new the bad guy Thanos coming out, the click on the things, and then you have this Eternals coming in there in this universe just to try to maybe do, like you say, expand the cosmic universe as well to create more characters coming through. But then at the end of the day, it's kind of felt like in the wrong time, the wrong moment. Like this kind of like if they're gonna come out with Thanos' brother who's come to help them. And he has the ability, the way the end scene happens is comes in to their ship to a couple of survivors of our Eternals. And then he's like, oh, look, and he has this troll the Pip, or I think that's what's his name.
That was the ending that we had. Now that you're saying it, that is the same ending that I saw, the post-credit scene.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
sorry to cut you off. Carry on.
Yeah, no. So the troll the Pip comes in then with him to introduce this guy, and he's supposed to be Eternal as well, which is kind of weird. And then he is saying, "Oh, hello, it's me. I'm the Thanos brother." I was like, "Huh?" And I was just like, "What?" And then that's what he's gonna come there to help them to basically deal with the big gods or whatever, those cosmic creators. The guys who creates cosmos and creates us, basically. They create the big bangs, and they are the ones who actually we should be thankful for, not our dear God, Jesus, Christ in the universe. So anyway, it's kind of in that sense. Maybe it will be interesting to see. Maybe next one is like I feel like it's like this movie, like Iron Man #1. It never been very popular. It has its own fandom and stuff like that, but never been like a huge hit until the next one and third and fourth came out, and then everyone's like, oh shit, this is a great thing. So if they're gonna continue that, we'll see, but you never know what they have come up with. I don't know still what Kevin Feige's idea is.
Master plan is, exactly.
Of apparently killing off all the old actors and coming up with new ones, as far as I heard the rumor, isn't it?
All I gotta say is just give me eternity. That's all I want. I just want to see eternity in a Marvel movie. That's all I want to see. I don't care how you bring it in. I don't care the story around it. I just want to see eternity. I want to see some cool special effects. I want to see some cool CG, and very excited at that possibility.
And all CG in this Eternal movie was actually really nice. The way the birth happened. Like that sentient being was supposed to be born. I really liked that. I felt it was really nicely done. It felt like the way he appeared, for all people, like mere humans out in space, and you look up in the sky and you see this shadow. That looked like a comic page.
I agree.
That was the comic page for me. It's like, wow.
That was a nice look at like what it would look like if Galactus made an appearance in the movies too. That kind of. They got the scale really right, I thought. Yeah,
exactly. So I guess that's where they can open up the world for.
Dude, be so awesome.
Those high beings, because at the end of the day, somehow you have to open the door for them to come into the storyline. So and then Damien, you haven't watched it, nor are you willing to watch this.
I like many things, I plan to eventually watch it, but they're always so low on my priorities. Like I've said before, my daughter's never interested in these things, and after she goes to bed, I read comics. So
totally.
But now that there's such controversy about the Eternals, I'm more curious. I have read most of the Jack Kirby run, and he wrote it to not be part of the Marvel universe.
Yeah.
Right.
And when they tried to force him to add Marvel characters, he put in a robot that looked like the Hulk, but turned out not to be the Hulk. So it seems like an awkward thing to try to force on the Marvel universe from my imagination, from what I imagine. Because, I don't know from what you're saying if they had the actual Celestials in there, but they kind of dwarf things like Galactus in the Jack Kirby version anyway. So it just seems like an odd thing. But as you're saying that this might be bringing in more cosmic stuff, and I hear about Pip the Troll, makes me think of Jim Starlin's Warlock series, which was so good. So that would be interesting if they're opening up to more of the Jim Starlin cosmic.
That would be so cool. Yeah.
We have, isn't it? They have the actor for the warlock character, isn't it? The one, yeah.
Oh, do they really? Yeah,
they do. They have already one.
Track.
It's an English guy as well. Another English young actor who's been in non-conventional TV shows. Like, I mean, not something you would think of the movie star of these days.
Right.
It's like maybe new edition of actors. I mean, new generation of actors. Let's say this way. But yeah, it's they have the actor, right? Like, I mean, they have already an actor, and now I can't.
Amazing.
I can't tell you the name of the actor because, why would I? We're on a line, like.
Oh, there you go.
So,
it makes sense to use the Guardian of the Galaxy movies to really bring all the Jim Starlin kind of stuff in, I would think. Because his stuff kind of always had this sense of humor along with the cosmic seriousness.
Right.
Yeah, I can't tell you who the actor is. I'm trying to look for the Google now, if I can Google.
Jimmy Carr.
And yes, artist editions are high on my list of things to do.
Yeah.
So shall we move on to comics, or is there more media stuff on your mind?
Nah, I'm good.
Will Potter is the new warlock.
Sorry, you cut out there a bit, Rasa. What was the name?
Will Potter.
Okay.
Oh, the actor playing Warlock.
Yeah. Trying to.
Has he appeared, or he's just been announced that he will be appearing?
He has been announced, I think, already. If you can. It's very clear.
Go real close.
There you
go. That's it. Yeah.
Yeah. So this is the guy.
Doesn't look familiar, but yeah.
Well, hopefully he looks good in a skin-tight suit, wearing some manacles,
right?
Or some wristbands. I mean.
Yeah.
Yeah. I can't tell you which TV shows he's been recently. As I say, me and this kind of stuff doesn't work really well. But yeah, he's the new card for sure. So he's coming out. So all the Warlock guys, all those issues of Fantastic Four, which is who's he or whatever that issue is, then those are going crazy in price already, because just announcing his name, that was enough.
Yeah.
For people to just go crazy about it.
I remember
I haven't even watched the Watchmen series.
I remember the ending being a little underwhelming for sure. It doesn't stand out in my mind that, oh my God, the way it all tied up was fantastic, but it was just such a good ride. It was such a well done show that the rest of it kind of made up for whatever potential letdowns. Because I'm sitting here thinking about it. I can see kind of the last scene, but I don't quite remember exactly how it wrapped up. Such a good show though. Like, for the rest of it was really enjoyable.
I save my skin tight suits for the private chats.
Right. The OnlyFans chats, the after hours.
Triple X's. Yeah, who do you want to join?
Yeah, that is really tempting. Look at the Kaluta Star Trek
shit. Yeah, it is. That's got my attention as well too.
And I think there's a new John Buscema artist edition that's going to come out soon that I'm saving up some money for.
Because his birthday came out, yeah. So we're gonna make him coming out with that stuff, yeah.
Oh, Sal Buscema's birthday. Sal Buscema's still alive. John Buscema isn't. But they should do a Sal Buscema artist edition. They haven't.
I got at least their name right.
Yes. They're brothers. Yeah. But one was much older and died younger.
Oh man, Scott Connor, you've got it. So that means I was just going to ask if it was a new one, but obviously not. If Scott already has it, yeah.
Yeah, I noticed it on in stock trades, and I was trying to decide whether to try and order it through my shop or order it through them. Probably I'll do it through my shop.
Right. How much of a discount was it on in stock trades?
I don't recall. Usually they don't give much of a discount on the artist editions.
Oh, I see.
If any.
Right.
That's why I was thinking of doing it through my shop.
Yeah.
I mean, it sells. So why would you give a discount for that kind of stuff?
Oh, dude,
it sells for the price.
That's really got me thinking. I want one of those. I would love to see that.
You call Slap Crack, so you have money now. So what the hell? I mean, why are you complaining? Huh? Slap Crack, you call yourself. So
I just look at the room that I have for the artist editions, and I've got I've got 2 right there right now. I don't think I have room for a third, to be honest. That's always the thing. Like, they're beautiful. It's just finding the room for them, right? Like, where the hell do you put
what
the
2
damn
do you have?
thing?
You have the Spirit, and what's the other one?
I have the Spirit and then the Peanuts. So it's a bit of a smaller size. Yeah.
There was another one you were eyeing, and you couldn't decide whether
there
to
was
buy
the
it.
Frank Thorne Red Sonja. It's still at one of my comic shops for a pretty decent price. But again, like, yeah, I'm sure it's amazing, and I love the format. It's just, I bring it home. Where the hell am I going to put it? You know what I mean? Like, I need to think practically about the space as much as I want those things, because at the end of the day, I want all the comics. I want everything.
Yes.
So
that
you
is
know
where I am too.
Yeah.
And I have a lot of the artist editions. Rasa's having technical.
Yeah, you have a nice spot for them too. I remember in the videos you were showing.
That spot is now full up.
Oh snap! Yeah.
And I have a it's not quite an artist edition, but the large Nexus book, and I can't find a place to fit that right now. So I'm gonna have to redo my shelves again.
Yeah, no, that's a really good. When you do videos there, I always check out the background when I see any sort of shelving in anybody's videos, but especially that angle where you've shot there a couple of times. It's a good spot for all those editions. Looks like they fit really nicely.
It's kind of imposing, I guess, to have them behind me.
Right. It's awesome. I love it.
Hopefully Rasa's coming back.
Yeah.
Did you pick up Saga?
I did not pick up Saga. No, I haven't been to the shop yet because I'm still behind on 2 Moons, because I think I'm 2 issues behind now on 2 Moons, I think. I think so anyway.
Oh, Rasa's back. Let me get her in here.
Well,
we're glad you're back.
Just like,
did you pick up Saga?
Oh, no. That's what I'm saying to that.
Where's Gore?
Just 2 I hope Gore's here. 2 interesting things is, one, in the back, he mentions that Fiona Staples had a baby. So I think that's why it took 3 years to come back. I did not realize that. In fact, I'm amazed she's ready to come back and do a comic full time, even like 2 years after having a baby. If it's been 2 years, I'm not sure. And then the other thing is, when I went on Wednesday to my comic book shop, and I arrived just before noon, and he said he'd already, because of Saga, signed up 20 new people to his pull service.
Oh, wow.
And while I was there, a woman came in and was looking for Saga, and he signed her up. And then they were talking about what comics she likes, and he sold her Lady Killer and Little Bird. And I offered her, I tossed Echo Lands at her. And so it's like, at least for my shop owner, because he's a bit not aggressive, but he looks to see what he can sell new people. It's like a huge boon for his shop. So even if I don't like Saga, I love Saga because it's making my shop a healthier place.
Absolutely. That's pretty amazing. I wonder how that's going for other shops. I wonder if that's the same across the board, because that's spectacular.
And I'm assuming that some people were trade readers of Saga and are now going to be exploring comic book shops more because of Saga.
Right.
They also mention in the back matter that they have sold, and I don't know if he's including comics in it or just collected editions, 7 million copies worldwide, which is incredible for a comic book coming out from Image Comics.
Shit, yeah.
You know, I'm trying to find the exact thing, but anyway, so this is keeping Image Comics alive. It's keeping the comic shops that depend on more indie kind of people. And I personally feel indies are the future for the comic book shop world, as sort of Marvel and DC just become more and more sort of crushed by their corporate owners.
Right.
One thing I'm saying, I may be shitting about the comic book, but I'm really glad for other people to go and do this comic book shop thing, explore, find a new pull list. That means you're gonna find something else to read. Hopefully that will, and if that kind of comic brings people to the shops, well, more of it like this, I hope it's gonna come out. So I really do hope so. That it's amazing. As I say, I might be saying on it, but it's just my opinion, which doesn't matter at all.
So just to miss So's comment there, I don't know if they're still doing it, but one of the I would arguably the biggest comic shop in our city, what they were doing is they were doing once a week where it was the store was open to women only. Again, with that idea that there's a lot more women reading comics, and some of them may be intimidated going in with a bunch of sweaty nerd dudes staring at them the entire time they're in there. So they were doing kind of
Terrence.
like a. They were doing a purely where it was just for women, and kind of because they have a lot of females on staff as well too. They have a lot of women on staff, so it was this kind of encouragement to get more women coming to their stores and interested in comics, so they didn't feel as intimidated. They could ask questions and they could have like discussions and stuff. I don't know if they're still doing it, but I thought that was a pretty great thing to kind of offer up.
It's a good idea. And there's, of the 3 shops near my house, one is specifically designed to serve women and LGBTQ people and other people who don't normally go to comic shops. And that seems to be the comic shop of Comics Will Break Your Heart, a woman named Jen who does a channel who lives here in Portland. Yep. I think it's working that she, the woman running that shop really aims her shop at people who are either relatively new to comics or don't normally go into comic book shops. Because she opened a second shop down in Eugene, Oregon.
Oh, wow. Eugene, one of the hubs of experimental and noise music in Eugene.
Oh, really?
A lot of wackos there for noise and stuff. Yeah, absolutely.
It used to be a haven for hippies, but they're probably all dead.
Yeah, that makes sense. Then that would make sense. Noise guys scared them out.
And the other thing, of my 3 shops, 3 shops that are in walking distance, 2 are owned by women.
Nice.
But the other shop owned by a woman is a traditionally male shop, but she happens to own it, but she doesn't focus on a female client.
Wow.
Anyway, so I won't go into Saga today, but I enjoyed it. But the biggest thing about it is what it means, I think, for the health of comic book shops.
Yeah.
Absolutely, and I never even thought about that. That's really great to hear. Actually, that's really good to hear.
As I say, I'm extremely pleased if that means that more girls or whoever goes to comic book shops and actually supports the business is better for all of us. Well, there's the reader. But it is intimidating to go into a comic book shop as a female and then go start talking, having conversations, and then start giving them, I know what you're talking about. Like, I know who's Spider-Man is, and I know where's he come from, and I know Aunt May he's not that hot in the comic books as in the movies and all that bullshit. So yeah, it's an intimidation factor for us females, because the first thing is, if I'm gonna go to the shop, I have to have a son and pretend I understand what he's talking about, or just don't go there. But I went, like London, for example, when I was going into London or was living in London, but I wasn't reading comic books when I was living in London anyway. But comic book shops in London generally have female staff. I've seen quite a few of them as well, which is great. And they are quite, London is a big city, and they are all about inviting everybody, be welcomed by everybody. But if you just go in a small town, if you do find a shop, sometimes it's a little bit less female-based, like females you see in the shops. And especially when I used to go to those comic marts, females are not there because they don't really want to smell the musk. And it's like, no, it's from the comics. It's for the comics.
The musk.
Like, we want to smell the musk.
And you're like, it's for the comic books. It's like, yes, and you'll maybe not like that. It's like, once I went, there was this guy had such a lot of 50p boxes. And all of the dudes next to the post 50p boxes, they were all like smelly, like
it's really just ridiculous.
Is it really worth it? I'll spend £1 rather, just because I can't breathe it anymore.
I don't know if I think it's worth it.
I'll spend $2. That's hilarious.
And it's funny. Adam used to be like, if Adam was there, like And then we go outside. It's like, oh, thank God, we breathe there now. Even myself, like, oh, yeah, I know what you're talking about. This, but it's for the comic books. I'm super committed to that kind of thing. It's like, yeah, he takes seriously anyway about comic books generally. So for him, it's like, now these days we have him a mask. I don't think even mask would help. but yeah, the smell in Comic Mart, especially if I used to go in summertime. It's like prepare myself, like fresh air first, and let's just go barge in. And God forbid, there was a couple of times the men were like really rough. I was like, come on, man. I looked up, one guy was huge, like almost, I probably the wrong place. I was almost to the armpits because he's the size of him. And I was like, and he was like almost doing, like pushing me aside, like almost like a cloth. And like, she was like, what the? I kind of punched him, and he looks down at me. He's like, what? And I was like, what? It's like, what do you want from me, man? I'm just looking for comic books. So yeah, you have to be brave. So when you go in that kind of environment. Yeah.
And what Gore Vidal's comment there is I've heard him say it. Maybe it was another chat. He said that about the Comicsgate channel uploaded a video attacking Saga because it was now woke, which is hilarious. Yeah, exactly, because it wasn't before, you know.
And this particular issue is not nearly as woke as other stuff.
Yeah,
there's a bit of a riff on formula for children as opposed to breastfeeding milk. Okay. I'm not even sure what the politics of that was, though.
Right.
But
well, it's all about
Saga's been, quote, woke since the very beginning.
As I had a child just recently and had to breastfeed him in public, it used to be a looks, man. You see, Jesus, the minute you're gonna even start looking at directions, like, oh, it's like, don't look at my boob. I'm just doing my natural thing in here. But yeah. That's the
it's still a thing, unfortunately.
Very much so. Big thing. Very comfortable. You feel like natural thing you're doing, but I guess not.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Hey, so Damien, I saw that you read Death of Doctor Strange there. I'm curious about it because, you know, I saw an announcement for the new Doctor Strange, and it's Clea is going to be taking it up. So I'm curious.
Okay, so you just spoiled the ending of Death of Doctor Strange.
There's ads all over the place. I saw it. I wasn't even looking for it specifically.
For you.
There's ads everywhere.
Shame.
Where's my copy of it?
Terrence.
Yeah, sorry.
I would, in retrospect, I would recommend Death of Doctor Strange.
Really, hey?
For Doctor Strange fans. It has some interesting stuff going on. The final issue concluded well. It felt a bit rushed here and there, but overall these 5 issues were a good read. I did not read any of the tie-ins. I absolutely didn't feel like anything was missing. And I'm kind of excited for Doctor Strange Clea for a while. I mean, they always return excited. Things, you know.
Yeah.
Oh no, they're swapping another man for a woman. But you know, Clea has been around for about 40 or 50 years.
That's since the beginning, man.
Right. And she was his apprentice, so she certainly deserves to be the new mystic, whatever you call it. Master of the mystic arts.
Supreme, yeah.
Sorcerer Supreme.
Sorceress Supreme.
Let's talk apprentice in this kind of way, because she wasn't really only apprentice of Doctor Strange, yes?
Well, yeah. There was a bit of what now would be considered workplace abuse or something.
Right. He was grooming her.
My mystic powers will help you.
All my girlfriend's apprentices.
Yeah. Can you make yourself big and show that page again?
Oh, sure.
I'm just curious to see it again. But I mean, you're selling me on it because I'm gonna put the new one on my pull list.
You know, Marvel comics are very flimsy and everything. I'm hoping you can find them, you know, for less than cover price. But
oh man,
the artist Lee Garbett, he did some of the issues. His art got weak, but it got very strong again by the end. So I think he's basically a good artist who was on a rush job for the deadlines. But So there were some issues where I was like, well, this art's getting a bit weak, but overall, the overall effect of these 5 issues was quite positive on me.
Who's the writer?
This guy named Jed McKay, who seems to be one of Marvel's new good writers. So probably, I think he's the one doing Moon Knight right now also. So he seems like someone. I still don't plan to buy tons of Marvel comics as they come out on the newsstand because they're so flimsy and expensive. But I'll definitely keep an eye out for this Jed McKay guy.
Cool.
There's always new writers coming along, right? They have to churn them through the machine.
Yeah, no, I'm curious to pick it up, actually. I remember looking through the first 1 or 2 issues when it was on the stands, and it didn't really sell me. I mean, I was curious because, what the hell, what's going to happen here, but right. I may get back into it because I really want to see what they do with Clea. I think that's a pretty good, that might be fun.
See if Jed McKay is writing it. Let's see. They show a cover here, but I don't think they say who's writing it. Oops.
Yeah, sweet. Yeah, that's the cover. So, oh man, that's like an homage. Oh, dude, totally.
Is that like the skull almost?
Yeah, absolutely, it is. Yeah.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. It's the same cover.
To the John Brenner. Frank Brenner
exactly.
cover.
Yeah, Frank Brenner.
And thank you, Ed Pissy, for getting rid of the bot. Those can be
they're bad nowadays. It's crazy.
Yeah. Did you guys see that there is Doctor Strange new volume number 2 of Omnibus came out? I haven't even.
Yes, I'm looking to get that. I think that's kind of the Roy Thomas era, maybe.
Yeah, it is. As far as
and then hopefully there'll be a Steve Englehart era omnibus, because that's to me kind of a sweet spot. Well, Terrence, why don't we move on to you in terms of something you read this week?
Okay, let's start with the strongest read that I had, the Old Geezers volume 2. So I read volume 1, and as soon as I finished it, I messaged my comic guy and said, yeah, absolutely, if you could grab volume 2 for me, that would be fantastic. It's just as good, if not even better, than the first volume. There's a number of really good story threads in here as well, and I think that the way they weave it through the story is really fantastic. It keeps you turning pages because there's a couple of sort of, unanswered questions and kind of mysteries in loose quotes that are going through the whole book. But it's really, I find these characters so comfortable. And again, like that happened right away from the first issue. The first kind of couple of pages of reading the book, they felt fleshed out. They feel even more fleshed out here as we learn more about their history and the history of the town that they're in and the history of their past, when they were younger. It's really great. And one of the other things that I find so amazing that they play so well is the politics of everybody. So out of our 3 characters, this guy kind of was heavy into sports and then kind of became wealthy. This guy here, and I'm blanking on all the names, he's kind of a union guy, and then he is this just kind of anarchist, really gets involved, protests and stuff like that. And then you get kind of all the surrounding characters that have their own politics and their own background, and they all live in this town together, and they have to rub shoulders with each other, and how that plays off of each other, as well as kind of the older generation to the newer generation. Activist is the word I was looking for him. So not necessarily just anarchist. He's a very, very heavy activist. Him and his group of old people who just go and do these actions, right, and protests and fuck shit up. So in this one are kind of the niece or the granddaughter rather of the union guy. There's a part of the land that's going to be, it's getting ready for a business to come in there. So the union guy is really excited about it because then it's going to bring jobs back to their community. Their community is really, the community, there's no young people that are staying there. Businesses aren't coming. It's just, it needs some sort of rejuvenation. So this is kind of a positive thing, but it's found that there's this rare species of grasshopper that lives on that plot of land that's almost extinct rather. So it's deemed that they can't. So this group comes into protest, and these 2 pages are a pretty fun way. Again, like when we look at the language of comics, I think these 2 pages do it really well. So it's the exact same panels on each page, but the dialogue is different because she sees one of the main activists, and she kind of, she's been single for a long time, so she kind of falls head over heels for him, and it's this internal dialogue that she's having, including an old woman saying, standing up and saying, "This is a scandal. Nobody should be that handsome, sir. I'm all in a tizzy. Control yourself, Nadine." And then on the next page, we see really what's going on, and she kind of then snaps out of it by the end. So I thought that was really a well done couple of pages there to illustrate that. But I mean, highly recommended. I would sit and read 10 more volumes of this easily. The characters are all super likable, even when they do really shitty things, because they do some shitty things. They're all incredibly likable, and it just feels very human, right? Especially when it comes to your politics and how that plays in kind of your everyday life, especially when you're in a community that's so small and everybody. It really strongly recommended. So that came out from Ablaze, if I didn't say it already. And so far, they only have 2 volumes in English. Each of them contains 2 albums. So basically, you get 4 books. So yeah, check it out if you can get your hands on it. Highly recommended.
Cool.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to keep an eye out for it. It sounds really cool.
It's so entertaining. And it's, again, one of those books that I find myself laughing out loud a number of times, and that's really tough to do in comics. It seems like it's getting easier. I don't know. I've hit a vein of stuff that makes me laugh out loud, but this one, there was a number of times where I it's so enjoyable. Just makes for a really fun reading experience.
Yeah, good. And it's great. Well, you said it's quite popular in Europe or in France?
Apparently it is. Yeah, I mean, there's a movie made about it based on the comics, and so, and I think there was a lot of volumes. I don't know how many exactly. I'm trying to remember.
Comics here about old guys or old gals.
What's that? Sorry. Yeah, exactly. Yep.
Us. It looks very entertaining for sure. I read I think some of it, like just a couple of pages was online, just to see what it is all about, and they were like really funny. And I was like wanted to, like, when you start showing that there's hardcovers, like, oh shit, maybe I should have a good hold of it, but not on my budget at the moment. But yeah, I'll definitely keep it on the list.
And if I didn't say it before, like, there's a regular comic, so it's about the same size as a regular comic. It's not much bigger, so we're not dealing like an oversized kind of thing there. So.
Okay, so it is my turn.
Yes, sorry, it's your turn. I was trying to read comments too much.
Yeah.
Lost track. Yes.
So,
have you got something for us?
Yeah. I'm gonna start with this the serious note first. So let's get over it. So, as I was showing you on my last video we were talking about, I was about to read this one, and it says it's a Siberian haiku. It's Lithuanian writer and writers and comic book art based storyline, but of course in English, which I found in the library, which I was very surprised by. The storyline is not to cheer you up, basically. It's not for cheering you up. It goes to the area where people from my country were basically shifted away from their own home into Siberia, just because of, at that time in 1941, Germany was they lost war to Russia, and part of the deal to understand how to basically my country was giving away a part of the deal of that, and because of that, a Russian army used to go into the whatever places in my country, take the family away without no explanation whatsoever, and put them into a Siberia. And this tale is about one guy's this boy here, his name is Algis, and his experience of his life in Siberia. it does come to a good ending, which is fantastic. But honestly, reading, it's basically a book reading from a child's perspective in that time, and it's actually really quite like, you know, he has this like really good imagination, and he's trying to, like, he's telling you a story about this, like, for example, like a geese called Martin, and he's befriended, and the geese gets killed, his pet, and then he still talks about him as he is like letter, like he's writing this letters which we don't know ever gonna be posted or given to the family members back in Lithuania. So it's in a kind of way of a child's perspective of how he imagines his life. And it also tells us about all his family and people who were taken at the same time. This, for example, Aunt Petronella, she's absolutely obsessed with Japanese culture. She dresses like Japanese people. She was even teaching Japanese culture to people around her village. So his aunt, and she was, they found some Japanese soldiers in here. They also described about his dad, was Romas Polonis, who has been taken away from them. So he is kind of like talking about his experience in Siberia, and also how he has lost his family members. In a way from child's perspective, which is kind of interesting, you know, like they come and just go fall asleep. For example, his granny, who was the most positive person in there, she said, "I'm tired." She closed her eyes and she died, and everybody was very upset and stuff like that. And then the life of how they, when you just arrived into Siberia, they were put into this, like, they call them gulags, I guess the right word to use. And all those gulags were not up to par for any kind of human life. And there's this, you have those bed bugs who were basically eating them alive almost to every single day they had to deal with. They were eating frozen potatoes to survive, where was a time of, like, when they were like put in places where you couldn't see yourself, and then from the child's perspective in that sense. So it's very, you know, like they were trying to sing, like he was thinking, oh, they made this apple choir because they were believing that the song will help them to survive. How people were taken away, you know, like the males of the whole every single family member was taken away, and I think they were taken into work camps. Of course, we'd never seen them afterwards before. Afterwards, the mothers, in order to survive, to kind of say that they will kind of like get food if you work. They're not taking kids to do that, apparently, according to this book. But the family, like the females, were going to works, but they never were getting anything really. The whole day of work usually was a slice of bread. That's one new thing what they're getting. He was talking about how they were creative about making food from stone, like stone soup. We were creating it. So you find the round stone, for example, in this book is explanation. You put it in hot water, you boil it for a while. If you're lucky enough, you find a grain of salt to put it in to add a flavor. He also talks about his whooping cough he continuously having because they were not allowed to sleep properly. They were sleeping on the floor most of the time. They weren't allowed to rest. And all the conditions of that, and it's all from this, as I say, those child's perspective point of view, and how they were still longing for those beautiful meadows, and because they're farmers and they were like beekeepers as well. And one of the things they were talking about, they were living in the village where they basically the bread was growing on the trees. It's just one of the things, and then also just explanation how to create Japanese origami in this book as well. So it's really, it's like it gives you quite of a sad a part of the time of history in my country as well. I mean, there are lots of things what people has experienced it, but you know, like how people were. Jesus Christ, shut up, please. My thing is getting. Giving me losing my train of thought. But anyway, but he's basically village. They had bread growing from the trees, and they were well known for that. So I think it's just one of the things what his imagination was bringing through in here, how describing the people in Siberia who actually lived there, was trying to help them, but of course Russian soldiers were never allowed to do that. It also explains that the first Christmas they were celebrating, they weren't having enough of food, they only have some fish, but Russian soldiers comes in through, and it's forbidden to celebrate Christmas in Russia. And they were calling some names of that, and they give the last fish to the dog they owned. So that kind of stuff. And then how they try to cheer themselves up is by singing songs, just to keep up the spirits. But of course, as I say, the tale has still had a good ending to it. So there was a couple of people who managed to basically make this rule to get a proof that all orphan children can be taken back to Lithuania. And these kids who still had my mother, who she said goodbye to them in order to make them survive. So they actually, all the kids who were there in that time in this told story, they came back to Lithuania. But unfortunately, they had to say goodbye to their own parents in order to do that. So yeah, it's kind of sad, but it's honestly really, like if you haven't known the subject of that kind of thing, what happened in my country, Lithuania, it's a really good way to see this story told, because it's not, there's no explanation, not complicated words to explain this, what really happened. It's just, as I say, perspective of a child's experience in that time.
Mm-hmm.
And his family, who's completely has basically tried to be positive and hope for that they will be able to survive. But of course, a lot of members of family have never came back to where we were from, and they were never given an explanation why they were taken away first time. But the only thing what they were kind of knowing why they were taken, they were called fascist throughout the whole journey to Siberia, because I guess because we were taken by Germans at first. They were almost calculated. We were Germans, and the Russians can do whatever they want because you are enemies of the state and stuff like that. So it's just one of the, as I say, it's really nice, really well created book, really easy to read, very easy to understand the feelings of the peoples in that time and era. So great book if you can, guys, at all find it or even see it. I highly recommend to be just. Open your eyes a little bit to what other people had to experience.
Where was your copy published? Is it a British edition?
Self-Made Hero publisher.
Self-Made Hero. That sounds familiar.
Yeah, I've got it on my list. I'm going to look for it.
Yeah, it's.
I love the look of it.
Yeah, it's. I don't know if there's more.
And the whole world of gulags, pretty much over here, we stopped talking about it as soon as the Berlin Wall fell. It's like we're not keeping that history fresh.
Self-Made Hero is English publisher.
Things.
It's an English publisher apparently as well. But it says all rights reserved to them. So it's www.selfmadehero.com is the website if you want to go and have a look, I guess, to that publisher. But yeah, this is the people who published this. And Lithuanian Heritage, what is it called? What's the page?
And it's on Book Depository.
Yeah. Oh, is it? Oh, okay, good. So Lithuanian Culture Institute helped to translate this in English. So as I say, English is really easy to understand exactly what they can come up with, and it's really well explained. Lots of explanation what is actually haiku is. So haiku in Japanese means a poem. You know that showed that because of the Petronella, Aunt Petronella,
whatever it is,
who explained that about her fascination about Japanese culture and stuff like that. So very interesting. It's, as I say, very heartfelt storyline with a good ending in a way. I mean, at the end of the day, he got back to Lithuania. He has his own family. His daughter, who's writing this book out of his experience. So at the end of the day, all that kind of told. And it's great that actually people are sharing this kind of information, especially in any kind of format, because, this kind of thing happened and people still kind of time passes by, we tend to forget about those kind of things, and this is kind of important to actually understand. It's part of the history. You can't escape that, no matter how much you're going to try to do that. So yeah, very good.
Fox Brown's publisher. Hey, that's interesting.
Oh, interesting.
Remind me who Box Brown is. I
He
can't.
did,
I know I've heard the name.
He did an Andre the Giant book. He's done mini comics for some American, very small press and publishers and stuff.
Yeah. So somebody did a video on the
interesting.
Andre the Giant book recently. Was that Gray? I'm not sure. Yeah.
Anyway, so yeah, highly recommend it. It's a really kind of like an eye opener. I mean, as I say, I told you guys the last video. It's like I've been told these stories before. My great grandmother was in the same situation. She wasn't part of the gulags. She came back, so she survived. She was one of the survivors, but experience she never wanted to basically share, because it was people were dying, people were starving from death. They weren't in conditions to be there, like kind of like to actually humanly survive. But some of them were, and then the strength of humanity sometimes, and strength in families, to be honest, how they managed to just keep up and just do something. And they were talking like it's just like simple stuff like how to brew. Like now we're like, oh, how are we gonna be more self-sufficient? It's like we used to do that. We tend to forget. We haven't done that. Like we used to do that, and we forget about this kind of thing. So yeah, it's really good. As I say, it's kind of sad, but
yeah, it looks awesome.
It's really good to for me myself. Like it's my country's history anyway. So it's kind of interesting to see that it's being published in that format, and I'm so glad, as I say, find that in library, which I wasn't expecting whatsoever. So.
Well, I have. I read Jerry Lewis.
I saw that on your.
Yeah,
I'm gonna share my overhead camera thing. Oh, and here's one of the best Christmas presents I got. It's a picture of Santa Claus with Little Dot from Harvey Comics by Fred Hembeck. And it was given to me by George from the Meanwhile in the Podcast show. So he remembered that Little Dot was one of my favorite characters.
Yeah.
Wow.
And Hembeck is still drawing, for those who remember who Hembeck was.
Wow.
But speaking of long memories, I don't even remember when Jerry Lewis was popular. But I looked it up. There were 124 issues of the Jerry Lewis comic book.
Wow.
And we haven't already discussed Mouse. I'm not sure if people want to or not.
Wow.
But anyway. But for the moment, we're talking about something not serious, Jerry Lewis. 124 issues over a 19-year period.
Wow.
And at first it was Jerry Lewis and Dean. It was Adventures of Dean Martin and Jerry Lewis. And then eventually they dropped the Dean Martin, because I guess Jerry Lewis became more popular by himself than Dean Martin. But I don't know if you can tell who drew this cover. It's a Neil Adams cover.
No.
Yes.
What? How old is this?
1967. Well, it's officially it's a January-February 1968 book. Wow. According to the database I look at, it came out in November 1967.
Yeah.
And the entire issue is drawn by Neil Adams.
Huh. You couldn't tell that. I mean, there's some similarities to like facials, but it's less.
Right. Every now and then you can see something, but
I wouldn't tell you that.
But there was an interview. In fact, it was an interview by Travis, Comics with Bueller, where early on in his channel he interviewed Neil Adams, or maybe not that early on, but a year or two ago, before COVID. It must have been. But anyway, and Neil told him that the reason his style was distinctive is he had experience in what he called Bigfoot comics, which I thought meant anthropomorphic animals and stuff. Yeah. And he took the kind of exaggerated positioning of Bigfoot comics and added realistic art style to it. And that's how he came up with the Neil Adams look. And that made a lot of sense to me. And now I'm looking at this and thinking, was this what he considered a Bigfoot comic? And and you look at like a panel like that where I'm not sure who this character was. I forgot. He's a magician. He just jumps up in the air in this kind of wild position.
Yeah.
So everything's a little extra exaggerated, and Neil Adams brought that to his realistic work too. For some reason, Jerry Lewis hangs out with this little kid, and they have adventures together, and the kid creates mischief. And the whole plot of this story is their friend, the magician, has this device which will make you look like anybody you want to look like. But there's all these spies who want to steal it from him. So he wants Jerry Lewis to take the device to somehow protect it better than he could. So it's a series of gags where Jerry Lewis disguises himself or turns into different characters. And several times it's a woman. I think that's their favorite gag. Like here he turns into Betsy Ross, who was the first person to sew the American flag. And let me see. He turns into a hippie. Oh, and he turns into a cute little girl. But then they realize later on that he had a little bit of stubble, and that's how they realized it was him. So it's just really goofy. And it's a way to, I think the plot is just a way to string together a bunch of jokes that might seem like something Jerry Lewis did. Jerry Lewis, now Terrence, being deep into cinema, may appreciate Jerry Lewis's work better than I do. He was at one point the most popular Hollywood star, the highest paid guy, and they let him direct his own movies and stuff. But by the time I came to him,
in France, no, like didn't he
supposedly very popular overseas? In France?
Yeah,
supposedly extremely respected in France. And he was a auteur. He would write, direct, and star in his own movies. And some of his movies were just completely improvised, I believe. So here he turns into a pirate, into Tarzan, into a Frenchman. And then he turns into a sumo wrestler.
Oh, lovely.
And they play jokes with the supposed translation of the fake. Doesn't even look like Japanese to me, but the fake Japanese. And it says, translation, at last fresh meat. And when he says, oof, translation, oof. That was the funniest joke in the whole thing to me. Anyway, I've bought a bunch. I think Neil Adams did 4 issues of Jerry Lewis and a couple issues of Bob Hope. And I've bought a bunch of them because I found them fairly cheaply online. And this is the first one I read. It's just weird, like the sense of humor. It's just nothing like I'm used to. I'm not sure if this was funny to kids at the time. Maybe it was. When it comes back around to me, we can look at this issue of the Spectre that came out the same month, and it's drawn by Neil Adams. So he was doing both. But let's move on to something Mr. Krakk has.
So I mean, just to touch on the mouse thing, I mean, suffice it to say, it's fucking mental. Like that's fucking ridiculous. Yeah, it's worth seeing that Art Spiegelman interview on CNN just to kind of see him processing it and trying to wrap his head around it. I mean, banning books is madness to me. It doesn't make sense, even when it comes from the other side, because there's the N word in it and stuff like that. You know what I mean? Like banning books just shouldn't be a thing, right? Like that's just not a thing. The thing that I'm both happy and sad about is apparently Amazon. That's the bad part. They sold out of. They had a bunch of mouse listed and it sold out almost immediately. Everybody flocked to kind of online to buy copies, which is going to be the natural reaction. Something's banned, and then there's people that are interested in it.
It's actually great for Art Spiegelman's bottom line.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now, I tried to find a digital copy, and there is no digital copy.
Oh, I see.
Comixology or Hoopla or whatever, there is no digital copy. Because I don't think I own a copy anymore. But I do want to say that this is me not trying to sound like a conservative, but the whole dialogue in our culture is effed up because they did not ban this book. They removed it from the 8th grade curriculum, and everyone says they banned it. The conversation should be, should 8th graders read Mouse or not?
Right.
And I'm not sure, because my daughter's an 8th grader, and I don't know if she's ready for Mouse. I think she needs a few more years. Not because there's nudity in it, but because there's mass murder and
heavy subject.
Difficulties of. So she knows the Holocaust happened, and that she knows that the Nazis wanted to wipe out the Jews, but it's a different thing to just go in to live it through a story. And I personally think it's more like something for 15, 16-year-olds or above. I would not ban it. I would not ban it from anywhere, but I would probably say, no, maybe it's not right for all 13-year-olds. This is something I run into a lot with my experiencing each grade level that my daughter goes through. Different kids can handle different things, and people are kind of in a rush to have kids get to all these things. And that's kind of, so anyway, and I'm sure that, some of the people on the school board were doing it for reasons other than what I'm talking about, but they do the way the whole public discourse happens, they distort the conversation. And I think in the long run, that drives some people away. Some people will say those dirty liberals trying to force this stuff on us, when it should just be a discussion about books like Mouse and when they should be taught.
For sure. So, I mean, the thing that I would say to that is that's good to know. That's a really good point for sure about the ban versus taken out of the curriculum. Totally makes sense. I would say that my daughter is 8, and they've talked to them in school already about what happened with the Indigenous people and residential schools and the mass graves that were found. So I think that one of the things that always pops into my head, absolutely, not every kid is ready for every conversation, 100%. But I don't think that the response then is to take away that conversation from all children. It's up to, that's where it comes to be kind of like a, up to the parents to some degree. 100%.
Are they not teaching the Holocaust at all, or they just decided that Mouse was not the best way to teach it to a 13-year-old?
My son is 16. He has not yet had any conversation, because we talked about this actually well before this happened. He's had no conversation in school whatsoever about the Second World War, period. Forget about the Holocaust. Wow. He hasn't had a conversation about it, period. And I find that very surprising at 16 years old that that hasn't been a conversation. Now, he's looked into things himself. We've obviously talked about things too, me and him. But in school, that hasn't been part of his curriculum. And again, keep in mind, I'm only talking Manitoba. I'm only talking here. I don't know what the bigger conversation is. I just know that he hasn't had any exposure to it. So, and again, it's always just the one thing of like, some kids aren't ready for a conversation. Absolutely. 100% agree.
And I'm not talking about a conversation. I'm talking about a work of literature that has you experience it on a more gut level. So I think there's different level. Like, I knew about the Holocaust pretty young, partially because some of my family went through it. But I didn't read memoirs about it till I was about 20, and then it was still an intense experience.
No, totally. Yeah.
So, and I haven't read Mouse in a long time. That's why I was trying to get the digital version, because I was trying to think, is this okay for my daughter or not? I don't know, because I haven't read it since I was in my 20s.
For sure. But I would say the same thing to you, though. Like, if it wasn't okay for your daughter, would you be a part of a system that would make it not okay for everybody's children or daughters? You know what I mean? Like, that's where the thing comes down to for me. Like,
well, no. Totally, but a curriculum means everybody has to read it.
Right.
So it's a difference between banning something and saying it's not
part of a curriculum.
But I would like to know, what is their curriculum? And they did release a statement saying, we just decided it wasn't right for this age. So I'm sorry to throw water on the whole thing, but I just wonder if the whole thing had been reported on differently. We wouldn't have
surprise
Art Spiegelman out there saying these people in Tennessee are demented. They may have, I don't know for sure. They may have just gone in, said it was banned, and then they found the most wacko people to discuss it and quote them in the newspaper, rather than some of the more reasonable voices about why they decided to, remove it from the curriculum.
That wouldn't be sensationalistic enough for sure. Yeah. So you're not going to find the moderate, reasonable voices that wouldn't.
But I mean, I think it's horrifying to think some people don't think the Holocaust is real and all that kind of stuff is a major issue.
Yeah.
And just like we should know more about how countries like Lithuania were treated by the Soviets, it's just all of these things people need to be more educated about.
Right. Well, and Francis O'Reilly brings up a good point too, that again, the limited, none of us were there, but what was reported was that the problem they had was the nudity and the cursing, so it wasn't necessarily about the Holocaust, because what I had read, that they were okay with that subject matter. It was that the way that it was presented in that book, they weren't crazy about, right? So.
To Kill a Mockingbird isn't about mass murder. I mean, it is a disturbing thing, and I don't know what age people read To Kill a Mockingbird. My daughter this year has read Animal Farm, and I think that's a typical in the U.S. Middle school kind of book. But anyway, I just think it's endemic of our era right now, where we just say these people are idiots. It might be they really did just ban it because of nudity, but it might also be something else. Either way, it might be because they don't want the Holocaust taught at all, and there's probably some people on that school board that's what their motivation was. But.
Right.
I
think. Sorry, Russell, go ahead.
Yeah, I read Mouse just 7 years ago. At just the beginning of my comic book reading, everybody was talking about Mouse, and then there's one of the things you should be reading as a comic book entertainment anyway, because of the subject matter, and it's quite popular in that sense. And my husband, he's Jewish, so in that sense, I was even more curious, because just to get more into understanding his way and heritage, where his family come from, because many of his grandmothers who were living in Eastern Europe in that time, and before they came to South Africa, they were exposed to that kind of that's where they left, basically where they come from, in order to escape. So in that sense, it was interesting for me to read. It is kind of hard to look at, because there's moments of that book in generally is really kind of subjected to a, like you say, mass murder, and but even though it is in the comic book format, and the way he's drawn that is kind of less graphic, you know what I mean, because of the use of the way he was using it in the art format. But however, I would be questioning it as well, if like you say, every single child should be exposed to that kind of thing at the end of the day, but they have to be exposed to some sort of time. So if you do say you have to in curriculum in this time, we banning this, so when you will be able to introduce that, or it's the subject matter, you will be introducing that. That would be more interesting for me to know as a parent, for example. Like you say, it would be interesting to know if you're at all going to talk about it. I don't think us as a parents really were at least knowing exactly what our children are, so until we're having a conversation with them.
Right.
So what did you learn in the school?
We don't know from the news what really happened. The whole use of the word banned might be. But if they are removing the Holocaust from their curriculum, that's different than removing Mouse. And things like the Diary of Anne Frank, I think, are probably a better format, because it shows you as a child, the meaning of the Holocaust, this child's life, but it doesn't dip you too deep into the absolute nightmarish horror of it. My daughter gets, or used to get, nightmares about things she was taught at school. Anyway, so different kids have different reactions.
For sure,
but
and that's where
I think it's a case of the media just not serving us well, in my opinion.
For sure. I would agree with that too. That's definitely a thing. But again, I think that the biggest thing is, what we're talking about in schools and what kind of things are being discussed. Because again, it was kind of a surprise to me to hear that from my son. And then, again, I'm glad to hear that, the residential school system and stuff is talked about here with students, kids even as young as my daughter, so I think that these conversations do need to happen. They're not comfortable and they're not great. And I think that doing some sort of, coming from a graphic novel angle is maybe a little bit more a way to ease into it, right? As far as like seeing kind of the cartoon characters, mice and cats, and it kind of offers you that one step, even though we know what it's representing and we know more about it and stuff. It's that kind of way to introduce that idea, Yeah. But I do hear you about
are
the
all
banning
graphic
versus taking
novels
off
aimed at
curriculum.
13-year-olds, right? We've been fighting that our whole lives, that it's not just for kids.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
One of the things.
Chris says they reported the minutes, but anyway, I'm sorry. I feel like I'm the only one out there who's not upset about or has questions about this story.
Oh, no. We all have questions. But again, like, this is the good thing, though. This is the thing that does need to happen, though, because I absolutely agree with you. And it's one of the things that's frustrated me the most recently. There isn't much room for discussion. You know what I mean? So I appreciate that you said things the way that you did, because I don't disagree with you whatsoever. And I think that a big part of our kind of dialogue and back and forth just doesn't cut that anymore. It just doesn't do that anymore. It's quick to jump on some of these things that this is the line, this is what you got to say, this is how you got to feel about it. It's like, well, what if I don't agree with that? Or what if there's nuances? Or what if I am 50-50, So I think it's important, and I'm glad that you brought it up, right? So, because it's good to think about it in a different way. Yeah. Anyway, should I keep going on with something else now?
Yeah.
How about pastiche that I got from Colin Blanchette, who I've talked about before. He's got a YouTube channel, and he showed this on his Twitter.
Wow. It's quite clever.
He showed this on his Twitter, and it's Tom Neely, who did I first got familiar with him through the Humans comic from I guess it was Image that put it out, right? Quite a few years ago now. Basically about a monkey motorcycle gang. Really fun comic. I didn't know anything about him before. I haven't really followed him since, but he was big in kind of the mini comics kind of world. So he had this mini comic that was kind of making fun of Popeye, called Doppelganger, that got a lot of traction out there. It became very popular. So this is kind of a reprinting of it, again, in the holding it up to a comic book world, a little bit smaller than a regular comic. And it's really fun. So Colin was nice enough. I commented on it and asked him if where he got it from, if he got it right from Tom, because I was going to order a copy, and he was nice enough to send me. He had 2 copies. Really great. He kind of mimics and apes that style really well. And what was extra cool at the end, he talks about how these cartoonists kind of influenced him as a cartoonist, and things that he enjoys now. He can trace, like all of us can trace back to kind of moments in his life. And when was it IDW that did a Popeye comic for a while? I don't remember who it was. He was lucky enough to do some art on a couple of issues. So I have those in my phone now too, to look for him. I think it was issue 3 that he did the main story. And then in issue 4, he did a backup story. So he's, just how exciting that was for him to kind of be a part of that lineage. But again, like, even seeing the samples that I looked at online of his stuff in the Popeye comic, it's uncanny how kind of in that space it is, right? So, and then he just plays around with the pages and things, like all of these kind of underground and kind of indie comic creators do. And then, like I said, we get a nice write-up at the end about how he came to this point and kind of his experience with comics. And then he throws in a couple of bonus. So he has some Nancy stuff as well too. And I think he said that he would love to do like a little Nancy mini comic as well. And in the back there as well too. So really, really fun. Like just a super quick read. Nothing kind of really deep or anything, but a really nice package on this really crazy, heavy cardstock cover with a price tag of $10 American, which that's always
was that
a thing.
Self-published?
I believe, yes, it's from his website, iwilldestroyyou.com. That's correct. So that would be his own thing. Yeah. 2006 is when it originally came out, and 2010, I think, is when the Doppelganger comic came out, and then this is 2019 is when this version was put out by him. So yeah, it's a lot of fun. I'm glad that it was very nice of Colin to send that to me for sure. Because once I saw that was the price tag, cool. I don't know if I would have sprung for it, to be honest.
Right.
Yeah.
I disappeared again, didn't I?
No, you're still there.
Colin has kind of kept his videos a secret, right? He doesn't post them on Twitter or anything.
I think he's only done the 2 videos so far. I might be wrong about that.
He's done 3, but I didn't find out about 3 stuff through you. Oops, we lost.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, and it's one of the things, like, I've talked to him just a couple of times on Twitter, nothing huge or anything, but when I first talked to him about it, he was saying that, yeah, a couple of his friends had also said the same thing to him about, you should really start a channel. So I hope he keeps it up. Yeah, AFPC is saying IDW for the Popeye stuff. So yeah. Yeah, no, it's fun though. It's fun, but again, $10. I don't know if it's $10 fun. Maybe $5 fun, but yeah.
Well, while we're waiting for Rasa to come back, I guess I'll
give us the Spectre.
Share my screen and show you the Spectre.
Heck yeah!
So I had been reading. I guess came out a few years later in Adventure Comics was the Spectre by Michael Fleischer.
Yep.
And drawn by Jim Aparo, and I didn't even realize there was this Spectre series drawn by Neil Adams. And this is issue 2. I assume issue 1 was also drawn by him, and it's written by Gardner Fox, who's like an old school gold and silver age, particularly a golden age writer who stuck around through most of the Silver Age, but he was less prominent then. And it's interesting in here to have the Neil Adams, the classic Neil Adams art, not the Jerry Lewis style, but to have the classic Neil Adams art, but with a story that very much has that golden age superhero kind of feel.
It's a great opening page.
In this, we're explained that actually an interesting thing is the MacGuffin in here is a magician, and in here the bad guy is a magician. Almost makes me wonder if Neil Adams were involved in the plotting, that two books he drew in the same month or appeared in the same month have a very similar setup. But there's this magician who also likes to rob people. Or no, I guess he likes to rob people, and he's a magician. And but his burglary fails. The guy punches him, and then his double shows up, and his double is what does he call himself? His etheric self. Your emotional state brought about by intense fear of being killed has at long last released the etheric body which has always been a part of you. So his etheric self is goes off to an ancient town called Arkham to suck up magical power, and then he comes back to town to steal stuff from banks and museums. The etheric self goes around robbing things while the regular self does other stuff. And in this version, Jim Corrigan has his own body and the Spectre has his own body. Right. And then the Spectre goes inside Jim Corrigan's body every now and then to recharge. So
like a Tesla car.
And which leads to this, let me see if I can find it, this crazy scene where they're in bed together.
Oh.
There they are going to bed. Now let's both get some sleep and rest up for our ordeal to come.
Put your face down in this pillow.
It looks like they're about to spoon.
It's creepy, yeah.
But presumably he's going to go inside of Corrigan's body. So it's all about, using their power of being a double to defeat this other double, and it's just like a little puzzle plot of how they're going to do it. And it does give Neil Adams an opportunity to, do these cool scenes like here with these giant playing cards. When he first goes into the bank vault where the etheric guy's been, it distorts his body and makes weird things happen. It kind of reminds me of like a Doctor Strange type of scene. But so I guess at the same time that Neil Adams was doing Jerry Lewis, he was already the full-blown Neil Adams who did superhero work. So I'm just surprised they had him do Jerry Lewis. And I haven't read this yet. There's the Spectre interviews Neil Adams. So Neil Adams is already a bit of a celebrity in the comics world too. I need to read that, but I just read this before we started the show.
Yeah.
So it was a fun enough read, but I mean, I was mostly enjoying the Neil Adams artwork.
That's beautiful.
But I was getting kind of a kick out of to see that very old, stodgy kind of plotting done with the really nice Neil Adams artwork. But the DC that Neil Adams came into was very old school. And it was really only once he and Denny O'Neil started working together that they started pushing DC forward a little bit in terms of subject matter and stuff. And so in the end, the Spectre and Jimmy Corrigan come to talk to the police captain or police commissioner to convince him about this etheric crime. So I guess even the police captain knows all about his ghostly double who helps him solve crime. So it's all very cozy and stuff.
Very beautiful. I like that.
So I'm because Neil Adams was actually the very first artist on my very first comic, and I'm just sort of obsessed by all the parts of his career. I find it kind of interesting.
Yeah, it gives
It's
you
also pretty damn good.
Yeah,
and he's a good artist. Yeah, I was lucky that was my first comic.
Yeah.
I really like his foreshortening as well, and his facial expressions in the characters he's using. But you can sense this kind of Neil Adams because of certain things, and especially how he draw like older males and all that stuff. He kind of that kind of like similarity to what he does, but he's definitely clever of in that time using what he was so capable of doing at it. And just it looked like like the fight, like you say, we were talking about the Jerry Lewis comic before, the action scenes, that jump and all that looks fluid and less static, which is very important in comic book.
Right.
And he was really good at it, and it looked right. And then I really like the colors. I mean, I saw
I wondered if he did his own coloring. It's unusual coloring for that era.
Yeah.
They don't credit a colorist, of course, but I know that like Jim Steranko sometimes did his own coloring, and I suspect that Neil Adams may have had a hand anyway in the coloring. Because there's unusual things done here for the simple coloring of the time.
And unfortunately, in those days, they weren't telling you whose colorist was or who was doing the colors.
Right. They don't list a colorist. They just list a writer and an artist. I assume Neil Adams inked it, but yeah, I'm pretty sure he did, judging from the style.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, it's interesting. In a way, Neil Adams was kind of like Jack Kirby. They both super exaggerated things, but in their own styles.
Right.
Well, Neil Adams is very super realistic look.
Right. Yeah, that seemingly realistic.
Seemingly.
Because human
like
bodies didn't really go in those positions as much.
But all the human parts and all that stuff is really, really kind of realistic to be on.
Good night, Tommy.
Okay.
I think Tommy lives in Sweden. I might have that wrong. But anyway, did you have something more, Rasa?
Yeah, before I disappear again. My internet.
Well, I took your place when you disappeared.
Yeah. My internet just decides to like, okay, bye. Anyway, I don't know. I don't know what the hell happened anyway. So I'll mention this now. The Flick. Flick by Matthew Dooley. Really, So very sad story at the beginning. It looks like your ice cream man who has to wake up, and he's happy when he wakes up in the morning, has his breakfast, has his newspaper where the quizzes are, and before that, knowing 11 o'clock hits, and he goes into to sell the ice cream. Where he lives is in northern England, which is weather-wise and summer-wise not really good for knowing for the weather. And then to sell your ice creams, but he inherited that from his dad. So his dad was an ice cream man as well prior to that. And this comic book starts with him of his lowest moment, where he takes an ice cream man into the sea, basically. Because of circumstances what happens after. So 2 weeks earlier, we kind of start to get to know our Howard character, who is an ice cream man, and due to what he's inherited from his dad, and we found a little bit of not a little bit, we find a story of his dad, and his dad was womanizer, and he was cheating on his mom with other females, like almost the whole village, that they call them in there. Well known for that. And then his competition, the other ice cream man in the area, is his half brother. And the half brother was more outspoken, less shy person. And he has this empire of ice cream, and he was taking over from other people, basically make them to lose their job, selling ice creams, and taking over and basically creating an enterprise. And the only person left is his half brother Howard. And due to his family ties, Howard was really sure that he wouldn't be touched, because for sure his brother wouldn't do that to him. And then as ice cream men's work in England, I guess, I don't know how it works in other countries, but you have your area of where you basically go there, and none other ice cream men can go. So it belongs to the street, the area, the suburb, whatever. Another thing what Howard has to worry about is also his mother, who lives in an old age home, and basically she's dependent on him, because after his dad's death, the money wasn't as great. So she was worried that she's going to be kicked out from the old age people. And while she was lying in bed, she asked him, that's his mother here, she asked him, please, can you make sure that, I made so many friends in here, I wouldn't want to leave this place. So Howard has another thing to think of, and basically to support it. And as knowing where he's at, it seems to be the money is not really the money he's not throwing around, because the sales of ice cream is not always good, because of he depends on, of course, the weather. And then, so, of course, everything goes okay until he notices that in his area some other ice cream people arriving, which is not good for him, especially every single cell counts. So he braves up and decides to talk to his half brother, and that's his half brother. Looks like a gangster, and actually the way this Matthew Dooley is introducing to us his gang of goonies kind of thing. I'm trying to find a page of introducing us to them, and of course, like always, I can't find the page. Should have kept the notes. Oh, come on. It's so clever.
The paper sounds very nice just when you're turning it. It's nice,
thanks.
thick paper.
So Tony and his entourage. So this is introduction to his other people who's working for him. So Herbie the Syrup Simmons, the Crunchy Calvin Carlton, Big Kevin McPritt, Gary Genghis Khan Green, Saucy Neville Tipton, and Casper the Bookworm Jennington. So it's like almost the mafiosos of ice cream. Anyway, so he basically starts talking to his brother about this. Like, I've seen it. You're definitely not going to do that to me. And unfortunately, his half brother has other things to do. So that's when a really sad moment happens to Howard, and he's struggles. If I'm going to lose this business, where else there for me? Because the only thing I know of my life is to be selling ice cream. So he goes, takes his van into the sea, basically. Like everybody was thinking that he's gonna basically trying to kill himself, but it's just that low point of his life. But that low point of his life, that basically what will make his future.
Mm-hmm.
So while his van got into sea and then, of course, was rescued and brought back everything, he basically decides that, I can do it. Like I'll change my color of the ice cream. Then I'll make it somehow. Like sell my ice cream still. Hopefully everything will go. And that's the amount of positiveness he gets. Well, and while afterwards cleaning the ice cream, and there's this machine where it basically pours his ice cream, had salt seawater in it, and then he puts the basically a fresh ice cream in it. I don't know what is that machine called. I don't know techniques of that. But anyway, he pours the ice cream and it has salt in it as well, and it creates the flavor which sort of saves Howard's life. Basically, he creates a new ice cream range, which creates an enterprise where he becomes more successful when he's half-brother. And this is the end of the storyline, which is superbly well told. And I'm just going through it, not without like whole crevices and all other characters' introduction to it and everything what happened. But this is the main kind of gist of the story. It's really well told, great. I didn't expect it. I was really happy after reading this. Like I thought like he's going dark, he's going to depression, he's going to drown himself with this ice cream, and it just floats in there. Thankfully they survives. The van survives. Well, not really, actually the van was brutally burned by his half-brother. Anyway, so I thought, like, this is it, this is going to be ending in really bad tone, but then the glimmer of light came through, and then he became extremely successful with this new created ice cream, and then he's become, as I say, mocks himself when he's a half-brother. But in because half-brother, basically the reason why he was so not in conversations with his half-brother, because dad was telling the half-brother's mother that he doesn't want any other son. He already has one, and that's enough for him. So you just wanted to have, like relationships, that nothing else would matter to him anyway. So yeah, very good. As I say, really like not your typical story I would have read anywhere else. But creators like these, which is basically a simple thing as an ice cream, can make a story like this of the life story, basically.
The coloring style looked very appealing.
It's really good.
Tastefully done, or
it's
done.
Very like clean lines, nothing overly exaggerated.
A bit like Chris Ware, I thought.
Chris
Ware and Box Brown as well too. Actually, they were
Box Brown
earlier.
I was familiar with.
Yeah, and it looks, as I say, it looks great. Very like tonally, and the colors I think he chose really correctly because of the amount of sunshine you really get in some parts of England, unfortunately. But yeah, it's just it's really well done, and it's Jonathan Cape production, another English publisher. Jonathan Cape London. It's the publishing house of this. So very good. As I say, one of the like those kind of things you never want to even look at, to be honest, to read, especially like not crazy like your superhero style artwork.
Right.
For some people, which we don't tend to look at, but honestly, it's such a lovely little story to tell about stuff like that. So very good.
So we used to have Dickie D's growing up, and it was these guys on bikes, and they'd have the cooler in the front, and they'd ring bells, and that was our neighborhood ice cream man. I don't think they had like streets that they owned or anything though, so it wasn't quite as cutthroat. But who knows? Maybe there was an underbelly of crime syndicate that I wasn't aware of.
While I was living in London, we were living with one guy who actually owned an ice cream truck, and he was saying that like there's almost like the rules, unset rule, like if you have your street in your area,
makes sense.
God forbid you see somebody else coming in through that, because what they make is how much they sell, because they buy in bulk. These are the ice cream. and they have to take care of everything. They don't. Fuel is in there. Everything is in there. It comes in price. So whatever you see, those ice cream trucks, whatever in here is like selling the ice cream. It's what do we do?
Scott saying ice cream pimps. Yeah, that's what I was thinking as you were saying that.
When I was growing up, that was still Soviet Union. It used to have these ladies, almost looked like nurses. They all wear white, and they had this cart with like a basically chest freezer on the wheels. They used to come and they used to have an umbrella of Sunny, for example. So standing there and selling ice cream. So he opens up. You don't really see there's 2 choices or 3 choices mostly. So ice lolly, vanilla ice cream or chocolate ice cream, and there you go. That's your choices, and you pick.
Right.
So thankfully, I liked one. Chocolate was mine thing, and very popular for everybody else. That's how I was growing up. And I used to remember, I don't know, I think I told you that time, but I had to wake up like 5 o'clock in the morning to just stand in the queue just to make sure I get my ice cream. Wow. Sometimes.
Yeah.
It used to be that bad,
Zesty Clam is really focused on the teeny quiz there, Damien, that was in the Spectre comic.
Oh.
There was it was on the opposite page of Spectre talks to Neil Adams. I think it was on that same spread there.
I missed it.
Maybe we should
because I just read this morning because after reading the
satiate his quench his thirst.
Okay, you can answer these questions. Teeny quiz.
All right, Zesty Clam.
Answer yes or no, everybody. Do you have problems communicating with the establishment? This is 1967.
Yes.
Do you find older people bug you about your long-haired friends?
Nope.
Do the discs you play shock your parents?
They better.
Do you have problems when it comes to borrowing your dad's set of wheels? Do grown-ups cop out on the clothes you wear? Mine totally copped out on my clothes. Are you? I think they got the teen slang wrong there. I don't think cop out is the right term there. Are you still looked upon as a gawky adolescent when you try to express your hang-ups?
There you go, Zesty. That one's for you.
If you answered yes to more than one of these questions, then you need instant relief from the traumas of modern-day society. Get down to the real nitty-gritty with a psychedelic experience. Team Beam, the only 12-cent new mag in full groovy color.
Oh my goodness. You won't
find this mag unless you ask for it.
Wow. Can you hold that page up? I actually thought it was going to be just an actual DC quiz. I didn't realize it was an ad.
I don't know. Whoops. I don't know if DC put out this magazine. There's not a lot of information about the magazine.
Oh, there it is. Wow.
Man, my parents and their hang-ups over my discs, it's horrible.
Yeah.
Cop out all the time.
That's hilarious.
Somehow I feel like if you were getting this teeny magazine, you weren't old enough to borrow your dad's set of wheels, but who knows?
Right. Or read Inspector where he's entering Jim Corrigan.
Yeah.
Hilarious. Sorry, too far.
No, that was hilarious. Yeah, stop.
Is it my turn?
I guess so, yeah.
Okay. So on that note, we'll start just with this because I just want to. I don't know if Gore Vidal is still here, but I picked up these yesterday. We went to this used bookstore. William Hope Hodgson, The House on the Borderland, which I don't know, I'm a few chapters into already. I actually listened to the audiobook on YouTube at work. Took me a couple of days kind of listening in and out and stuff as I was working, and it's really great. It's fantastic. I had the game that I talked about before, and I figured it was about time. So one of the local bookstores had a copy, and it's really, really great. And then they also had this from him as well, too, Karnacki, the Ghost Finder. I think it's 9 short stories, 8 or 9. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So yeah, 9 of them. revolving around this Karnaki character. I haven't started this one yet at all, so I'm looking forward to that. So a couple of the kind of books, and then I dug into my back issues, dug into the indie comic drawer, and pulled this one out, the Book of Lost Souls, that I've had forever, from a company called Leadbelly. It was the only issue of this one that they put out. There's a dance party going on upstairs, so hopefully you can hear all that there. This is the only one they put out, and honestly, I would read more of this. I really like this one. It really kind of bridged that gap of underground comics and kind of indie stuff, right? This company, I kind of pair these because the guys that did Cave Evil did the solo game for House on the Borderland, and they kind of have this art style going through their work as well, that I feel this kind of fits into that whole gaming RPG kind of world. These were just really great little stories, kind of the anthology horror type book. Nothing mind-blowing or anything, but the art is the draw here for sure. The art is really fantastic. Just has that,
like Jack Jackson or something.
Yeah, a little bit. It totally has that underground vibe, and just like the proportions on the people aren't quite there, but they're really trying some stuff, and some of the backgrounds, just the amount of ink on those panels and stuff is really fantastic. And this kind of final page here with the bones and the guy coming out of the alleyway. So much fun. I didn't look into the creators. Here's the big payoff here. What he looks like now. Yummy. As he rips the guy's face off. So that's a really, a nice grisly kind of image for you there. So a lot of fun. Love the lettering. I just really love everything about this. So it feels like I need to dig, because there was a period of time there where I was buying so many just cheap indie books, and there's still a lot of them in the drawers that I haven't given enough time to. So I really want to make an effort to go through that and just read a bunch of this stuff, because there's always some gems in there. And then there's the back cover painting there. So the Book of Lost Souls, for, if you see that in the mini bins, or in the 50-cent bins, don't hesitate on that one. It was a total blast.
When do you think that came out roughly?
I think it was 91.
Oh, it's from the 90s. Here. Okay.
Oh, okay.
1991. So Leadbelly Productions. And looking on my comic shop, they only had two. Well, all they have listed on my comic shop is two titles. This one and something called Reptiles. Thought there was an ad for, Interplanetary Lizards of the Texas Plains is the other book. And this one went like 5 or 6 issues or something. So I put that on my list to keep my eyes out for. We'll see how it if I find it, because it's not like I see this everywhere either too. So yeah, that was that.
The Weird and Wonderful.
Yeah, like we always talk about hitting those cheap bins, right? When everything is expensive, just grab something for $1. Even if you hate it, it costs you $1,
It's fun to just explore those things.
Yeah, totally.
A little less risky, but I find these fairly cheaply here and there. I don't know for $1, but so I read number 1 and number 3, and you've got number 3.
Yeah, I read number 3 because I saw you post it, so I thought it would be fun to just kind of read it as well too.
Yeah, so feel free to chime in. I'll quickly talk about number 1 first, I guess.
Yeah.
Both of these are just entirely all written by Bruce Jones, who maybe Marvel fans know from when he wrote the Hulk. People may also know he did a lot of stuff with Richard Corbin. I think people also may know him from other anthology comics. I'm trying to think of the names of all of them. Some of them are like Alien Worlds, and
a lot of the PC and EC.
And he also wrote a lot for Warren magazines, and he was also an artist. He could draw his own stuff, but here he lets other artists do all the heavy lifting on the art. But the big difference between 1 and 3 is the wordiness. In issue 1, it's most of these read as if they're a short story. You don't even have to look at the pictures for most of them.
Right.
Wow.
Like in this, let's see, this opening sequence, or actually it isn't until this page when he throws up, when the character throws up, that's the only thing that hasn't been written about, where they write everything that's happening.
Right.
But this has Richard Corbin art, sort of Richard Corbin doing for Richard Corbin a fairly unoutrageous story. But it's a pleasure to see him doing it. And it's kind of like in this one, the guy is a guy who goes out and tells people their loan is late. But I think it's for a legitimate loan company. But he decides that maybe he can get laid with this woman instead of making her pay back her loan. And she whispers him that she caught something from her last boyfriend sexually. And he says, well, that's okay. I'll do it anyway. And the joke is at the end, and then she tells him, you better leave before my children come back. At the end, it turns out she literally caught the crabs as children at the end. And her children, the crabs, eat him. So it's all based on a bad sexual innuendo pun kind of thing.
And that last panel, I told you to go, I told you.
Right.
So great.
Have you read this issue at some other time?
Yeah, I've read them all before, but it's nice to revisit them.
Yeah.
It's super nice to revisit them.
So it's kind of like an EC comic, but with the
this
sexual twist. Yeah, and the coloring's not by Richard Corbin. It's by Steve Oliff, who I think was an early, more innovative colorist.
Right.
And then there's an Alfredo Alcala one that takes place in a summer camp where the handsome guy basically talks the girl into killing the really gross guy that she married. But she apparently never had sex with him. And at the this one was weird, and he always smelled bad. Now he smells even worse because he's a rotting, decomposed body, and she decides now she has to let him sleep with her. I guess maybe so he won't kill her. I'm not sure. But then she screams, so maybe she was killed. That was an odd one. And then this one was really good. A walk in the woods. I want to say a whack in the woods. But this couple encounters all these things that are from fairy tales, like the witch and Hansel and Gretel, and the three bears, like in the Goldilocks story, and Red Riding Hood and the grandmother. But they're arguing the whole time. Like the husband thinks, "Oh, we really have walked into fairy tales," and the wife keeps saying, "No, we haven't." And it just ends with him walking up a hill to get a bucket of water with a girl named Jill. But I thought this one was quite good, and actually, it's not overwhelmed by the wordiness the way the other two were.
And what do you know Brett Blevins from? Because I love his art, because he also appears in this issue 3, but his art really stands out to me.
I love his art too here, but I'm pretty sure I've seen it in like DC and Marvel Comics and not been impressed.
Okay, yeah.
So I think he went on to try to do superhero stuff, and it was not his forte, and he just became like a B grade John Buscema or lower than that, probably,
because he's got a real Rick
if I'm remembering the right person.
Stuff.
Yeah, it's more, this stuff reminds me more of, I mean, not exactly, but more in the Val Mayrick kind of zone, or a little maybe even Frazetta influenced or something.
Interesting. Yeah,
And
I dig it a lot though.
And then the last one is really creepy, about these guys who go around, it's never really completely explained, at Halloween and take people's children, and it's all the people, well, it's revealed at the end why. I'm going to spoil it. It's all the people who caused their friend to be burnt to death.
Oh, lovely. So
the art is incredible by Tim Conrad.
Yeah.
Who at one point, he did Almeric, and he did the Brand Mac McMorn Brand McMorn or whatever it's called that I recall from Marvel.
And he also did this that I love, this Eclipse one, this Toadswort. And it's
I've never encountered
freaking
that.
Gorgeous art in here.
Wow.
It's absolutely stunning stuff.
So I think Marvel wanted him to be their next Barry Windsor Smith, but he didn't stick around long. And I guess he did a lot of this Pacific Comics type of stuff.
I also feel like these two characters, I'd have to go back and check, but there's Pacific Comic Presents as well. And there's a Tale Eerie something or other. And I feel like these two characters are from that as well. So I don't know if they were continuing. I haven't had a double check yet, though.
Sorry, which two characters?
The two characters in this story that you're looking at right now. I think that they appear again in another Pacific title. Yeah.
And they're trick-or-treating with one of their friends is under a sheet and is revealed at the end to be all burnt up. But it's pretty vicious because they're burning kids alive and their parents give the kids up to them, I guess, because they've made examples of some other parents who didn't. So that was very intense. And then Terrence has read all of these, but he's reread Twisted Tales #3.
I did, because I saw you reading it and I thought it would be fun to kind of read it as well.
Which I thought this was a pretty amazing and disturbing and depressing story, Me and Old Rex, about a boy who's beaten by everybody. It starts with him being beaten by his teacher at school. Then when he gets out, he's beaten up by the bully. And then he gets home and he's beaten up by his old dad. And he finds a baby dinosaur egg and he raises it and eventually feeds people to it. But then the revelation, I'm going to spoil it.
Yes, spoil the shit.
The revelation at the end is there was no dinosaur. He made it up. It was his imagination, and he had chained up his father in the barn and made his father eat people, I think.
Yeah,
that's how
his father named Rex.
His father named Rex, right. And great art by Corbin. I think, again, colored by Steve Oliff.
I thought the art in this one was a little rough for Corbin. And
really?
I think the colors, the colors didn't do it much justice. Some of these panels, like with the bully early on, like it seemed so dark. It seemed like it was kind of obscuring some of the art. Not the whole way through, but
like here.
Yeah, those two panels there. Yeah, that one's especially. Yeah. His art looks a little rougher than it normally does. I mean, it's still great because it's.
I guess Corbin, I liked that roughness, but it is a different style. Like it's his purely pen and ink style without any airbrushing or whatever else it is that he does. I mean, it was a very, very sad story, but it kind of rung true to me in some psychological way. There they are advertising Richard Corbin's own press, Fantagor Press. It's very sad. I guess this kind of financially failed, and that's when he went to work for Marvel and DC.
I look a hunk again and love story, so it's kind of like a reoccurring.
So one reoccurring thing to me about this is it's kind of reminds me of the underground horror stories, but with the sex toned down. The sex is a little bit off the panel. You know, you're not seeing quite as much, but it's still, the sex is there. So it's like when the underground guys, did their fantasy of the EC comics, they threw in
full on
all the gratuitous sex they had hoped
and violence and everything.
And this one, though, is interesting. It's drawn by someone named Doug Wildey, and I looked him up. He is most well known for being the creator of Johnny Quest.
Wow.
He worked with Toth on Johnny Quest, but I think he originated Johnny Quest. And before that, he was in the 50s, he did Western comics like cowboy. He's created a number of those Marvel cowboy comics. But the style here is beautiful.
Really nice.
I thought at first it was Gray Morrow when I was just flipping through the book. I don't know if you're familiar with that artist, but that's what it made me think of. And this is a very inventive story where someone's finishing the other guy's screenplay, and every idea he has for the screenplay starts happening to this couple. But then he scraps the idea and it goes away. And then the next horrible, because he's writing a horror movie. And every once in a while, they start going, Anyway, at the end, I'm spoiling all of these. Sorry. At
It's
the
the
end,
80s.
they it's revealed the A on his typewriter was broken. That's why he
So
didn't-
clever. I love that little point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and this one really did feel like kind of a grown-up horror story in a way, I guess, maybe because of the relationship, the husband and wife relationship.
I don't know if it's the same what I see now, but it looks like very much like Ed Brubaker and Sean Phillips could write this. It's like the colors is kind of
You're
similar.
right.
The tone is very similar. Yeah, maybe it's inspirational for our artists in general. But the males, the scenery, the car chases, those kind of like situational like expressions and all that stuff, just really is kind of could scream that as well. So yeah, interesting. Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's interesting that Wildy did some Johnny Quest for comics, for Comicko. Yeah, you're totally right, Rasa. I see now that you mention, I totally see the connection to Phillips and Brubaker's work here. Because it makes me want to see more Wildy work. At least when he's working in I don't know if his westerns from the 50s would be in the same mode at all.
Yeah.
And Bill Ray did this next one. He apparently is very involved in animation now, including Ren and Stimpy and Samurai Jack. So that was interesting. I wasn't so crazy about this story. What did you think about it? It's about
I didn't like the story, but I really liked his art. The thing that I loved almost the most, I love that with honor lettering. I really like that panel a lot. His art is fantastic. I see it in a bunch of stuff. I really like the style, but the story itself, it didn't do much for me.
Yeah. It's about a Japanese soldier who fools another Japanese soldier into staying on an island for decades while he fools around with his wife, basically.
For 15 years, he's on this island.
I think it plays on the idea that there were those Japanese soldiers on obscure islands who didn't know the war was over.
Yeah.
It's a similar kind of thing.
This last one is my favorite in this issue.
This seems very much a kind of classic creepy and eerie kind of story to me. But
Brett Blevins again.
Brett Blevins again, you're right. Yeah.
Yep.
And it's very well drawn. So this stud-like captain of the ship is drooling over the fat rich guy's wife.
Of course.
And he believes the fat rich guy's wife who has told him that she wants him to kill his husband.
Yeah.
So he does.
My favorite panel is there on the right, in the middle, right in the middle of the page. It is such a disturbingly accurate drawing of a fat guy with his tiny ass poking out of the shorts.
Butt. Yeah.
It's unfucking believable. I love that panel so much. It made me laugh.
Yeah, so he takes the guy to an island where there are giant clams, giant shellfish that trap you in this bay. And he leaves him there for the high tide to come and kill him. And then he goes back to the woman and she says, "You're crazy. I didn't want him to actually be killed. I just
Yeah.
That was a good twist."
Yeah.
And so then he goes back to try to rescue him because she's told him to. And he finds that his foot was cut off and is left inside the clam. And he says, could this guy have, cut his own foot off with the knife he had? And then, he has a dream about the guy coming back. And then, what is it? Is it like the Coast Guard comes along and he fishes up a shark? And the shark has the dead guy's body inside its mouth.
And it tells you who did it.
And the dead guy, before he
carved
died,
it in his body.
Carved on his own body who killed him.
I love it. It's grisly and amazing.
Yeah. There's something very addictive about these horror stories, even though for me, like each individual one is limited. But it's like potato chips. I keep wanting to read the next one, and since they each have a different interesting artist on them, and you can't go wrong with these Corbin covers either.
Yeah.
And
It's always a good gamble, I think.
I think I have most of them now. So
there was one or two issues that took me forever to find for some reason, because I've got the whole run now, but there was one or two, I guess maybe the print run was pretty low on them. I think they were near the end. It just took forever, because I mean, these are some of the books that I often see when I'm out there in the bins. I don't know what it's like for you, Damien, but they're out there a fair bit. Twisted Tales, Alien Worlds, Alien Encounters. Usually find those laying around.
And there's
somewhere.
2 volumes. There's one from Eclipse Comics and one from Pacific.
Right.
So I think I may have all the Pacific ones, 1 through 9. Let's see, the volume 2. I have issue 1, but maybe there was only 1 issue. I'm not sure. So maybe I have them all.
Right.
It is, I mean, writing short stories is not easy, and that Bruce Jones could write so many. I think I have a good amount of the Alien Worlds too, but I need to check on that.
Yeah, no, I think I may sit and reread them all. Just you see, like I said, seeing that post from you was a good reminder. Again, like thinking about revisiting some stuff that it's been a long time since I've read. I think that would be fun to reread that stuff.
Yeah. I guess you either like horror or you don't. It's hard to, you can't convince someone to like horror. And this kind of horror is both horrific and goofy at the same time.
Yeah, totally.
Because of the need for the twist endings, I guess.
Yeah, that's really help. Because if it would just continue just in the same vein, like, okay, then it just continues to be horrific. Like myself, I can't watch movies, horror, but horror comics, I tend to be okay. Not John Drito. No.
Right.
Yeah. So far, whatever. I even library now had a couple of them. I looked through. I browsed through them and like, nah, nope, too twisted. No, it just gives me like creeps. No, it feels like almost realistic.
You're not going to be waiting for the new Texas Chainsaw Massacre trailer that comes out tomorrow?
No, I'm not a fan at all.
Can't wait to see what that's going to be like. It's going to be a Netflix thing, and it's apparently a direct sequel from the original. So the original, like Leatherface 50 years later or whatever it is, right? So the image that they use for the poster looks good and creepy. So I'm excited about that. That's kind of like, that was my gateway into horror. The first movie that legitimately scared the absolute shit out of me. Like absolute shit out of me.
And you got addicted to it afterwards.
Yeah, I loved it. And then as a teenager, I watched a ton of horror video stores, any sort of videotape that had some horrific shit on the front. We grabbed it all up. I tried it all. And then there was some that lasted, but some that, whatever. They were fun. But I'm a big fan.
I can't stomach it still to this day.
I think for movies, I like the cheesier stuff.
Yeah, I hear that. Yeah.
But in books, like I went through a huge Clive Barker phase at one point. Of course, Stephen King, but I think if I saw Clive Barker stuff done right in a movie, it would be too much for me. I mean, Hellblazer was already a little further over the edge than I'm comfortable with.
So I watched like an example about movies and me watching. So I watched Chucky for 10 minutes. I couldn't play with dolls for almost half a year after that. So that's how much I was freaking the shit out of me. Oh, I'm talking about, I'm like, I don't know how old was I when Chucky came out, to be honest, but it wasn't like I was like in my teens for sure. But then as I say, but I just couldn't look at the dolls. They freaked the shit out of me, especially those kind of dolls like similar to Chucky, like we had kind of like the babies and all that stuff. That couldn't look at it and like friend's house. One of them, my friend's was kind of obsessed with dolls in generally, so she had quite a few of them. Like, no, I'm not going to your house. No, you come to visit me rather than I'm going to your house. Like, there's no way. It's just cut. It's just how I am with the scary stuff.
If you like this stuff in comics, Clive Barker's Books of Blood is a great place to go, I think, for prose. They're all short stories, and each one is very different and very weird, both weird and disturbing.
And if you're tired of reboots and retcons, try out The Witch and Hereditary. Those would be two kind of more modern horror type movies that, dude,
interesting.
Killer, both killer.
Yeah, Annabelle is the one with the blood all over her. Is that the one? Oh no, maybe I'm just completely going crazy.
Sorry, say that again, Rasa.
No, no more. No, I'm just I'm thinking out loud. No.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did you ever want to make your own horror movie, Terrence?
I mean, originally when I was thinking, me and my friends, me and a close friend of mine at the time, he was an amazing, I'm sure he still is an incredible artist. And we'd always talked about our thing for getting into movies was going to be special effects, because we loved all of the extra gory horror movies, because it got to a point in kind of the 80s, late 80s and stuff, where those gory movies were so over the top that you couldn't take the horror movies seriously. It became about like the prosthetics and the kind of really just over the top elements of those movies. So that was kind of the area we always wanted to get into as far as when it came to movie making, because we just ate all that stuff up, right? So the more ridiculous, the better, you know, like Street Trash is a good example of a movie where the gore is just, it's so over the top that it becomes just ridiculous. It becomes kind of a comedy, right? Even though it's supposed to be a horror and this sort of thing, right? So
isn't that the movie with the keep away game with the guy's penis?
That could be
another one.
Yeah.
There's some movie I saw, I thought it was Street Trash, where they cut the guy's penis off and he wants it back and throw it like in a keep away game.
There is your moment of boner for this week's episode.
To me, that was a boner killer.
Yeah. Hilarious.
Is it Ross's turn now?
Mine.
I think?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Something more you read that isn't too much of a killer?
Well, I had to get hold of this. It came out this week, I think. Anyway, so Serial is finally ending. I waited it because I had this number 9 issue, but I just somehow, you know, like you put away an issue and you like, I started to be paranoid and I haven't read it. So the number 10 came out this week, I think. I don't know. So this week, it has to be this week. Anyway, so I asked my comic guy, I said, no, and she sent me, I don't want to wait longer than this, you know, because the final issue, number 10. So, so it's finally wrapped up. So, Damien, you can expect the graphic novel. Or the trade, whatever. The volume 1 was out, but he's going to collect in the whole thing.
The hardback, that's what I'm going to get.
Yeah. So, he's going to collect in all of it so you can get hold of it. But it's, so, the creme de la creme, the fight of our serial killer, and basically the demise of her mother in this scene you see, where she's trying to kill her own daughter. There's a twist right at the end of it, which was surprising because I didn't expect it. So she's going out to basically kill her mother. That's the last wish of this Jenny, the serial killer, and her mother was in the like old age home as well, and then she was giving to basically end her mother to the torture almost point, where she was giving all the killed people's like trinkets she was collecting after the kills. Anyway, so she goes to that mother, but of course Zoe gets in her way, and she comes out and she's going after her, and basically they have this conversation about, you know, who you are and blah blah blah, why you're doing this to me, and Zoe's one thing to do is to revenge her friend, because one of her friends, Jenny, she was murdered by her. Anyway, and so what we see in the last couple of issues is just basically the fight scenes between two of them and the conversations, and it's absolutely fantastic the way he just loves panels. You know, like
intense.
And then kind of like, you know, like complete fight scenes where, you know, Zoe, a little girl, and she's like, our serial killer, she's like kind of laughing at her, who do you think you are, you know, like, and then Zoe just trying to tell her like it's a little bit of her background, who she is. She's not really a little girl and stuff like that. And then this is the issue 9, and the last issue here there was a bit more basic explanation to, like our detective who's trying to find out who basically the actual killer as well. So because Zoe is basically after the same person, and Zoe was basically a couple of steps ahead of the police, which is kind of funny in the sense of that. And then we have a little bit more of explanation, and there's a twist right at the end, which I didn't see it. Mm-hmm. And there's a couple of scenes where the dog got involved, and I was like, "Oh my God, don't, Terry Moore, don't kill the dog, please!" And thankfully, the dog wasn't murdered, so that's good for me. So spoiler alert in that sense, but yeah, the dog doesn't get, and I'm not gonna go further than this. So okay. Zoe gets. I was actually thinking he's actually gonna do it. Zoe was starting to get really injured. I was like, no, she's gonna go away, but apparently. I don't want to spoil it, but there's a twist right at the end, which is kind of worth it, because I don't think anybody was seeing that. It kind of worked, and right at the end in here, you kind of find out a little bit more to the twist of that. Of course, you'd find out the twist, but you just find out how it came to, in a way to be. I wasn't expecting that, so really well done. For me, really not. I think it's definitely really going to be more rewarding if you read it in the one chunk, because sometimes there's a couple of details which I missed, and of course that did explain to me in issue number 9 and 10. But it's like, oh, okay, that would be a bit more rewarding if I just read it in chunk. But as I say, I'm collecting this in singles, whatever Terry Moore is going through it, and I really like opening. Like trades I really hate, because his art, even though he doesn't have like Garlos usually, is kind of good, well designed that himself as well. But it's I just like the way, like in comic format, the way what he does and how he creates the paneling and stuff like that. But yeah, it's finally done. It's only 10 issues, so he already mentioned it on Twitter and something like that. But it's gonna come out soonish, up of February. I think you're gonna be able to.
Has he announced what he'll do next?
No, that's the thing. I don't think I've heard yet what he's gonna do next. Maybe because I haven't watched a couple of his YouTube videos. YouTube videos usually tells you, informs you with his intentions to the future, what he's gonna continue doing. But yeah, I don't know yet. So hopefully he's gonna something's gonna come out and we'll know what he's gonna do. It usually takes a little bit of break after creating something, like a couple months, I guess, and then he comes out with something else, I presume. But yeah.
So I've been thinking about doing a I've suddenly forgotten the name of it. The series about the woman
Rachel Rising.
I was thinking of rereading Rachel Rising. Yeah. Do you think it would help me to reread Rachel Rising first before I dive into Serial?
I don't think so. Not really. I mean, okay, if you want more, a little bit more about Zoe's personality and how she deals with situations, maybe that will enhance it a little bit more for you. But there's not much going on.
Not a lot of details that I need.
Yeah, at the beginning they will think, because Zoe, of course, Rachel Rising does have really great moments with Zoe, and then she's enhancing that story as well, even furthermore with the comedic sense of brutality. She's really in Kill. And then she explains in here, because basically two of them kind of are killers, and they have this conversation between them, and Zoe says I'm not that brutal as you are, because what you're trying to basically do, torment me first, make me suffer, and then kill. I kill and I'm done. Zoe says, I'll kill as quick as possible, I'm done with it, and then whatever. And the serial killer, she's basically up for the whole experience kind of thing. And who was she killing? And there's the thing, but the twist, I think that will help him to go forward with the storyline, I guess. But let's see where as I say, I'm not sure what he's going to do next. So yeah, Rachel Rising, I recommend it to read anyway. If you haven't read it or you haven't finished
I've been
reading
meaning
it.
to reread it for about 2 years, but it's kind of daunting because it's pretty long. I have it.
It's not. It looks chunky, but Terry Moore's
He reads fast, doesn't he?
Yes, this reads like seconds. Honestly, it's just like that's the one thing. It's just like it's good. It's like comes to the point of the story. Like it doesn't go around and around in a way. It usually does that in the last issue, like more explanations. So, in this one, where you can actually see in the first couple of panels, you have those like more words in here because it just like ties up a little bit more of a storyline if you, for example, missed something or something like that. But the read is usually very quick and goes fast. With Rachel Rising as well, it's just like you want to flip the page to know exactly where he's gonna go to the character and what he's gonna use. So in that sense, it will not take you long to read it at all. I think the what is this? Oh, I forgot now. Was his first work? It was with those two females. Oh my god! Strangers in Paradise.
Strangers in Paradise. Yeah.
Strangers in Paradise is much wordier.
Right.
Way wordier than it is what you have now in this day and age. So it's kind of like maybe got his own way of dealing with writing storylines and stuff like that. So very good.
Cool. Well, I look forward to the hardback soon.
Yeah. You said he's going to create omnibus, but what kind of omnibus for 10 issues can you make? But
well, the hardback for the one before that, what was it with the ape?
Yeah,
that was called an omnibus too, but it was just 15 issues. So
yeah, exactly. So it's just 10 issues.
It's just a normal hardback.
And I think he shies away now of telling the longer stories. Like Rachel Rising was the last bigger because that spanned in 40 issues, I think.
Because your sales keep getting lower with each single issue, and he found it hard to keep going financially.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, because he depends on his own creation. So
it's the way the market works. So that's even Marvel. Every 6 issues, it's a new number one because that's how people buy comics. Yes.
Exactly. Yeah.
Terrence, do you have something more to dazzle us with?
Not really to dazzle you with, unfortunately. I'm again attempting to read. I posted this on Twitter as well too about my 500 comic.
Oh, hot stuff! Whatever. Yeah, I noticed that. I think I have that, but I haven't read it yet.
I'm attempting to read it again, and I read this one last year, I think, and I never went any further. So I gave it another try, and I haven't gone any further yet. The art is okay. Like there's nothing that I can really pinpoint that I'm not crazy about because there's some really good elements in it. I mean, there's a Corbin story right off the top, but I wouldn't say that it's an amazing Corbin story. It just feels like it's kind of just running through the paces a little bit. There's a Gray Morrow art in this one too. And again, like there's nothing wrong with the art whatsoever. There was just something about it that I can't put my finger on, that it just didn't really leave me with like, I can't wait to get into the next issue. It's another one of these anthologies that just have a bunch of stories. And again, like the Gray Morrow story, I remember it from the first time I read it because it did stand out to me, and it stood out to me again this time, but just not enough to be like, man, I can't wait to see what that next story is with them, because I believe it's the continuing story throughout a bunch of the issues. The other one that stood out to me again was this one called House, and I'm not readily seeing artists' names. And the thing that I really dug about it is kind of what they play with on the page, using these really dark blacks and then having this kind of washed out grays and mixing that in the panels and things. It gives this really cool kind of ghostly effect to it, which, again, it's done for a reason, obviously. And that lettering there, I really like the way that panel looks quite a bit. Out of the whole story, I think that's just amazing. So it's not like it's a bad book, but it's just not great either. It just is, So what else can I kind of show you?
I wonder if it was kind of a situation where, like, I think the person who did Hot Stuff used to publish those portfolios and things, and maybe the artists all had a connection with him, so they had to give him something, but it was just kind of their throwaway work because it wasn't what they were really focused on.
And then,
I don't know.
Speaking of Neil Adams, there's your Neil Adams centerfold here as well too.
Yeah, I remember being a bit disappointed with that. Now that you mention it, I'd forgotten he was in there. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think it's maybe a collection of throwaway work by good artists.
It almost kind of felt like it, honestly. I'm really going to try, because I've got a few more issues, I think 4 or 5 more issues. So I'm really going to give it a try. But as soon as I put it down and kind of sat with it and thought about reading another one, even the next day, it just wasn't something that's like I jumped right back into. I kind of found something else to read, found something else to do. So it didn't kind of thrill me enough to get back into it.
I don't know how to pronounce it, but Sal Quartuccio or something was the publisher.
Right. I can show you the name here.
I see a lot of ads from him when I look at these old comics buyer's guide that I've rebought for ridiculous amounts of money.
Right up there.
Yeah.
Yeah, from Brooklyn.
Yeah.
Yeah, so 1975. So, but the covers for the next one, again, like the covers are so goddamn appealing. They're
Is that
really
Corbin also?
This one, it's gotta be. Yes, it's Corbin. Yeah, it's gotta be. And the background is incredible.
The colors.
And there's another for another issue. And then
Great
another
covers,
kind of classic Corbin.
Oh yeah.
A
that
classic
one's
Corbin cover there.
A lot. I've seen that in a lot of places.
It has, yeah.
That's an incredible one. I love that.
So I mean, I really do want to check them out. It's just that, yeah. I mean, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm missing out on stuff here that
maybe you should just look at the art and not read the stories.
That's also what I was thinking of doing, just flipping through them just to kind of see them. And I mean, when I was finding them, like my little notes and stuff, they were cheap when I was finding them back in 2017, it looks like. So like $2 a pop.
Wow, good deal.
So I don't know. I feel like I should give them another chance. But when you just read something like that, that's just very underwhelming. There wasn't a lot to kind of grab onto. And that was pretty much all that I read this week. I didn't do any other reading, continuing with Modesty Blaze and then starting on House on the Borderland and stuff too. So that's kind of taken up some of my reading this week.
So I won't be able to talk to you about 2 Moons again then, huh?
No, I didn't. I still haven't made it down to the shop. I just haven't made it down there.
Yeah, you read the number 9.
Did you get number 9?
Yeah.
No,
I'm losing it. I'm not understanding what's going on anymore.
He's putting so many threads. Now he's taking back like past and future, and then past again, and then it's just like inserts the characters. But then it's honestly, I think it's just I mean, I absolutely love it. I'm very confused about this guy. I thought that's the past, but apparently it's a future, and in that sense. But yeah, I was like thinking maybe we're gonna have a discussion, but then it's kind of like.
And is there an African American with a mohawk, along with the Indians with a mohawk, or am I confused? And that's not an African American.
No, that's the Indian. He just dressed up with the ghetto because they changed the clothing in order to mislead the group.
I'm just not following this at all anymore, and so I'm either stupid or something's gone wrong. And maybe it will all make sense if I read all the issues of this arc together. But I'm feeling a bit frustrated with it. Yeah,
this arc is definitely way more complicated than what we have had beforehand. There's lots of going on, but the main importance is that our American Indians are going after the white men. It's basically the gist of it at the end of the day. And of course, our main character, the medicine man, and our doctor, the Irish chick, they got involved. Oh, is Sarah disappeared now?
I hope I didn't do that by accident. I don't think so. I was typing.
Yeah. Well, anyway, so it's as I say, it would be nice to because when we all discuss it, and then Terrence finally goes into the comic book shop and then gets this issues. Yeah, but it seems like it is much more intense when it comes to this the storytelling in this one. It's like you have to pay a little bit way more. Like you have to pay attention because otherwise you'll be losing. But then the scenes like these, just like things like where I'm really extremely looking forward to looking.
I think we've got Terrence back.
Yeah.
My turn to get booted.
Yeah. It happens today, eh? It seems to be our thing. So
yeah, the drawings of the monster kind of things are really cool.
Yeah.
I feel like I don't know. I'm not sure if I like the art as much as I did earlier.
Oh, really?
Maybe it's just because I'm feeling confused, so then I'm getting
yeah. It might be, but I'm still as I say, I'm very intrigued. I really enjoy. I want to see where it goes, especially when it comes to the medicine man and her, and then they survival.
The first arc was 5 issues, so is there just one more issue left to this story?
Would presume, isn't it? But we never know. We'll see how it goes. But it looks too complex to leave it at next issue. Do you know what I mean?
That doesn't feel like to me like it's gonna be wrapped up.
Yeah, and the cover of the next issue coming up is it looks like it's gonna be havoc going through because of people is seemingly getting lost and they getting like less control over things, whatever happens. But yeah, Terrence, you definitely let us know when you're gonna be able to have a discussion, because it would be interesting just to basically completely talk about it. It's very difficult to talk about something in vague way.
Yeah, no, totally.
It would be fun, actually, if we've all completely caught up and we try to dissect and discuss what actually has happened.
Yeah, and see our feelings about it. Yeah, that's for sure.
I might, when I get the next 2, I might just start from the beginning of the second arc as well, just to kind of get back into the headspace. Because it sounds a little unfortunate if I figure out the way that it's going by what you guys have said.
Yeah, and then I haven't finished it, but I'm trying to get into Innocenti's Daredevil, which I've never have given a chance. And I started with this issue, and it's to my surprise, Giffen is an artist in this arc.
Oh, that is surprising. I didn't know he did Daredevil.
Yeah, I didn't.
Oh, that's his styles change all the time. I like that style of Giffen.
Yeah, so this is the one. It's called The Black Wordsman, and it's about this people who's basically playing around with the crocodile, experimental things. And
like the urban myth that there are crocodiles living in New York sewers.
No, not really, because this man, he's been he's about to die apparently, but they used him as a guinea pig, and he will be known for, because they, as I say, I haven't finished it, so nothing yet is very explained to me. But Tasha Romanoff is in here as well, which was something I was like Daredevil and Black Widow has been always part of it, but it's those panels like this Giffen excels at. I think I absolutely loved it. And then Natasha comes in, and she is all like completely like in wrecks because of those experiments and whatever happens. She's basically trying to survive this, and they after her as well. And then as I say, I haven't finished it, but I just started reading it, and because I always wanted to get into more of the Nocenti's run of Daredevil, because I don't think I've ever given a chance of doing that yet, because I was concentrating on earlier stuff all the time, but I was thinking, why the hell not? Start from something, and it seems to be I'm starting from somewhere new as well, so I'm gonna see how far it's gonna get me. And as I say, Keith Giffen and art, I was like, oh yeah, that's exactly what I want. Especially, I really like when they did that to Daredevil. His use of blacks on the faces are always pretty cool. Yeah. So
it's hard for me not to see his stuff and think Ambush Bug, though, because that's growing up. That's what I remember, his Ambush Bug series. So I see that and I automatically think of that series.
So,
but I like his art style and did not like the character Ambush Bug, so I'd like to see it on something else.
Yeah.
I wonder if that's the only issue he did, because the way our AFPC has framed that comment sounds like maybe it's just the one Geffen issue.
What issue number is it,
was on?
That's issue number 247.
247. Okay.
Yeah. So this is one going to be. I'm going to talk more about next because I haven't finished it. I just scraped through it. I was like, I want some Daredevil, and so read a couple of panels, and then I got of course distracted.
Oh, so you haven't got to the whole issue yet?
No, I haven't. I just started getting into it.
And do you have other Ann Nocenti issues sitting
Yeah. I have quite extensive run of Daredevil anyway, so I can go. Basically, I went into my ZLZ app and was looking to see when the Ann Nocenti's run started, and I found something like this 247 in 240s. She started somewhere this, as far as I remember my research. So I just wanted to get into it because I know people say, as I say, there are lots of underrated stuff what she's created with Daredevil, and like when I feel some Daredevil, I don't need to go to new stuff. I can go to the older stuff first, and of course, like why the hell not? It's Daredevil. I like the characters as well. So, I'm gonna, as I say, I'm gonna talk about it next week. I'm gonna try to get to read more older stuff. Lately, I've been reading quite new things, and also I'm been looking to see if the library is gonna get a new Daredevil run by what's his name?
Zdarsky.
Yes, Chip Zdarsky, just completely finished because I read the first volume digitally, but I haven't finished it the run, and I wanted to because of the art. And second volume was not very thing, but still people are really liking it. Apparently, it's quite good Daredevil run from Chip. So I wanted to see if they have it. So I've been looking to see if I can find it.
Bob usually says good things about it. I don't know if he's reviewed it lately, but during most of the run, he's been saying very good things about it.
Yeah, and then as I say, more than I've been craving Daredevil lately. So I guess that Hawkeye series with Kingpin that escalated to that point as well. Sometimes you just forget what you have, or you don't go into your bins, as we call them, on shelves. So I just the minute I opened up, I was like, why am I not reading this? It looks fantastic, exactly what I want. Right. It's like, you just tend to forget that kind of thing. So.
Did you grab the Elektra Black, White, and Red or something there, Damien? I see that first issue came out. I had to flip through it, but I didn't pick it up yet.
I think I saw someone reviewing it negatively, and I just didn't pick it up. But it's probably not smart of me to go by someone else's review. But I had so many comments.
I'm curious about it. The art looked pretty good in what I flipped through, but
those are more expensive, probably more pages. But they're sort of the kind of thing I'm thinking, I'll pick up these Black, White, and Red comics of various characters in the bins later for less money.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
that's sort of been what's on my mind with those. But I am curious about them because I like to see all the different artists' take on things.
But what for me and then Marvel's new stuff especially is quite jarring when they change the artist quite different way in a way, especially of the superheroes. I don't know, superheroes tends to be, you want kind of similarity to what their expressions are and who they are and blah blah blah. But I don't take precedence on new stuff, especially what's come out with Marvel. I always like whatever has been done before that. So, but curious. Daredevil has always been talked, and I like the character in general. So it's always curiosity what runs for me in that sense.
Yeah.
So. So it sounds like Zdarsky is going to be continuing with Daredevil after the big event.
And I heard that as well.
And Bob's saying he's not so crazy about the event, it's almost typical for Marvel. You're having a great time with the series, they throw in an event, and then it goes downhill.
Yeah.
Oh well. And I'm going to have a slap fight with Scott Connor over Ambush Bug.
Oh wow, what's happening?
Well, he says it's crazy talk to say that you don't like Ambush Bug.
Who said they don't like Ambush Bug? What's going on out there? What am I missing?
Damien doesn't like Ambush Bug.
I'm the one who doesn't like
Scott
Ambush
Connor
Bug.
is saying that. I see.
Yes, he likes Ambush Bug.
Yeah.
I loved it when I was a kid. I don't know how it would read now, but I loved it as a kid.
I remember.
I was also reading Captain Carrot, so what do I know?
Right. I didn't read it as a kid, I guess. It came out when I was already in my 20s, I think.
Oh, wait, right. So definitely. I remember seeing in the back issue bins, Ambush Bug. I never realized that Keith Giffen was actually an artist of that. So I never picked that up. But I like Keith Giffen generally. So when I saw this one, it's just like, oh, yeah. Like the first issue you pick up and it's like, oh, good, great artist. It's an easier way to start something new, like that. Especially if you like the art coming in.
Well, I have one more comic to show off if you guys have time.
Yes.
Yeah. Give her.
Howard. The duck.
A random Howard the Duck issue. I picked it up because it had Kung Fu on the cover.
Kung Fu.
Evoked Shang-Chi, the master of Kung Fu, is wearing the same shirt as Shang-Chi.
Right.
And as ducks are wont to do, no pants.
Master of Quack Fu.
Yeah.
And sometimes I find old Steve Gerber comics too much. I don't know how to explain that, but I super enjoyed this issue. And I think maybe what balanced out Steve Gerber is that it was drawn by John Buscema.
Oh, yeah.
And fantastic inks by, I don't know how to pronounce his name.
Steve Leola.
Steve Lealoa.
Oh, yeah.
Is that a Hawaiian name? I'm
yes,
not
sure is, yeah.
But he is an incredible inker. And I think he was a good penciler, too. I remember comics penciled by him. But
it looks lovely.
He and Buscema really go well together. And Buscema I don't normally think of as doing, comedy. But it works really well. And Steve Gerber, I mean, he's a satirist and everything, but you kind of get the feeling he doesn't like anything. So he's pissed off about the popularity of Kung Fu movies. It's making all these kids violent, and they all come out of the movie and try to beat each other up and stuff. And then this big Kung Fu bully comes into a diner and is beating up this kid. A big fight happens, and the kid gets stabbed. So it's all in the telling, right? The rhythm of it and stuff. And I suppose this is all done Marvel methods. So the rhythms kind of come from Sal Buscema, and it was just really fun. And Howard's weird relationship with this girl is kind of fun. Beverly, I think. But so he goes to some bookstore that I think is an adult bookstore, but he doesn't realize it. But he picks up a magazine called The Deadly Feat of Kung Fu, which is somehow at the adult bookstore. So they're conflating adult bookstores and comic book stores, which barely existed at the time, but there were a few. In fact, that looks like the storefront of the comic book store that I found in Manhattan when I was 13. Anyway, he sees an ad, Secrets of Kung Fu Revealed. And so he decides to take the course. And so there he goes, and he takes the course, and in 3 hours becomes a master of Kung Fu.
Amazing.
Aren't we all wanted to do that?
And realizes where he learned the Kung Fu is the exact same spot where the adult bookstore was. The adult bookstore had magically turned into the Kung Fu place.
It's like a magic book you opened up.
And then he's mastered Kung Fu, and he can beat up this bad guy who abuses the martial arts to bully people. And that's pretty much the whole story. So it's all just in the telling. But it makes me want to read more Howard the Duck. A few other times I've tried Howard the Duck and been kind of
look at those scenes.
Overwhelmed by it or something.
Right.
Maybe by its word.
Good looking art there, man. It looks really good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had no idea that John Buscema ever did Howard the Duck. But I think a lot of the credit, I mean, John Buscema is a great sort of visual storyteller, and then the actual, nice, appealing quality of the artwork comes from Lealoa also. Because basically, I think Buscema was like at this point a breakdown artist, and the inker would really be the finisher of it. Anyway, so if you ever see this in a cheap bin, I recommend that issue.
I don't see Howard the Duck cheap anymore. I don't know, because since they showed in the movies in Guardians of the Galaxy several times, and they were announcing that he might come out because they're gonna make something of it. But then everything died down again. But still, the prices of the Howard the Duck was correct.
Yeah, sorry, I wasn't laughing at the prices going up. I was laughing at
no. I know.
Everyone knows the downfall of our society started with Kung Fu.
Yeah. Exactly.
I've got a few random issues, but it's the same thing. It was
fighting.
never really out there in the bins. Like I don't really see them that much.
Oh, really? Okay.
And when you do, they're a little more than I'm willing to pay to give them a shot.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah. Especially that the Kiss issue, the first appearance of it, that goes like no.
With their blood in the issue.
Yeah, apparently they used their blood to create a comic.
Oh, Kiss. I thought you meant where he kisses someone. Oh, Kiss appears in there.
Yeah. Issue number 13 is the first appearance of Kiss appearing in a comic book, I think. Is that what
That's
it's
the
called?
one that I had when I was young because I was a huge Kiss fan. So I was buying everything Kiss. And I'm like, what do you mean they were in a comic? So I snatched that up. Long since gone, though. Long since gone.
You had that Kiss blood in your collection. Now it's gone.
I sure did.
It's funny to think Gene Simmons was in like comic book fan groups with like Marv Wolfman or somebody like that.
Oh, yeah.
And I think he was friends with Steve Gerber. I think Steve Gerber put him in the comic because they were friends. And then that made the whole Kiss connection with Marvel.
Huh. Interesting.
If I remember correctly. But Gene Simmons was part of comic book nerddom in New York City.
That's amazing. Makes sense, though, you know.
Yeah, it does. They are comic book heroes.
Yeah,
Now I want Kung Fu comic book to read. Not Howard, I'm saying, but just Kung Fu comic. It's just nice to. I remember that time when everybody was absolutely mad for Kung Fu.
Yeah.
I was going like in karate classes for like 2 weeks, and afterwards, like, no, I don't want to do this anymore because of all the movies and stuff. Oh, I want.
For me, Master of Kung Fu is like, excuse me, like Conan in that look for the issues with the good artists, and then it's fantastic. And when the artists are just kind of fill-in artists or mediocre artists, it loses all interest somehow.
Yeah,
at least for me. So if you find Paul Galassi issues, well, of course the Jim Starlin issues, but those are expensive. Or Mike Zeck issues are quite good, but then incredibly good are the Gene Day issues, which are all pretty inexpensive because those are like near the end of the run. I don't know if you guys have heard of Gene Day, but he's a pretty incredible artist. And he did just incredible stuff. He wanted to really prove himself on Master of Kung Fu, and he just went all out on that.
The thing is, there's omnibuses of the Master of Kung Fu, but they're not available. They're
already out of print.
Yeah,
I'm glad I bought them immediately.
Yeah, because number one, it's a whale, like they call those terminologies of that omnibus,
like a whale
club whales of the omnibuses. So you can't get like the minute it comes, like number 4, I think it came out, isn't it? And then it's already like almost like sold out and shit like that. So omnibuses is kind of like as well. If you miss the boat, you miss the boat as well. Especially of those series. Especially another thing, like the Moon Knight TV show is gonna come out in Disney Plus, and one of the characters he died just a week ago on the slopes. So it's kind of crazy on that kind of sense, like what's happening with the people. And then
the skiing accident,
the skiing accident. One of the prominent French actors who was going in. The one thing I remember him the most is what Perfume movie.
Oh, was he? Okay, I never saw that movie, but I remember.
Yeah, he was the villain in that.
Yeah.
So, and he was acting.
Crazy.
Hopefully, Terrence has the Mr. Bong issue or Dr. Bong issue of Howard the Duck.
I don't know if I do. Is that a? You lost me on that one. Is
that
it was
real?
Are they really
joke
circulating around it?
This is a drug joke, but Dr. Bong actually, his head was a giant bell which you could hit and would go bong.
I see. Oh, okay.
So I think it's both as a drug joke and someone who's just into noise music. But
yeah, absolutely, yeah. The bell head guy, the bell end.
That's another one.
I don't know if it's a good read, but the Dr. Bong thing is just the thought of it is hilarious.
Yeah.
Gore Vidal started posting reviews on his channel. I may have missed some. I saw, what did I see? There was a really good one he put up about Warrior magazine.
Oh yeah,
the Alan Moore one.
Yeah, about Alan Moore's work in Warrior.
Oh shit, I missed that one. What the hell?
So that was very good. So
shame on you.
We all need to.
I know.
There's so many comic book channels out there. It's harder to keep track of your favorites.
Yeah, you get lost in the translation, as they call it. Yeah.
And I find people who do faceless. I mean, I don't blame Gore for doing faceless ones, but it's harder to like say, when I see Terrence's face in my feed, I know immediately that there's another video there.
Yeah.
I hope Gore does a saga video. I know he read it. He said,
I don't know, man. I'm still not convinced he's not Brian K. Vaughan, coming in here and making sure he keeps mentioning
clever
Saga.
Promotion in all of history of comics. It's Gore Vidal.
He works
I
for
think
the
like we were discussing it. I think he's the one to promoting everywhere. I mean, he talks about it every time he's on some people's conversation. So
he kept it alive during these 3 years of no Saga.
That's right.
Are you, Terrence? Are you gonna
for politicians?
Are you gonna keep up? Are you gonna start reading sagas, like back to reading saga again, or not? Or you're not interested?
Who, me?
Yeah.
I'd like to. Yeah, honestly, I would. I'm not in a rush, though. You know what I mean? But I really would like to, because, like I said, I really enjoyed it when I was reading it.
Yeah.
I really did. It just kind of hit a point where it just dropped off for me, and not because I wasn't liking it. It just, I stopped picking it up, and I just kind of got involved in reading other stuff, and it just kind of got lower and lower on the list rather. So I'm curious to read it though and see where it goes. And I mean, I know all the stuff that happens. I know all the spoilers and everything. I don't care about all that. I still want to kind of continue with it though.
What, the people die? And everybody's died? Is that actually?
Maybe
and this is just an illusion?
Like, maybe they did, maybe they didn't. Who knows?
How you got remember when Lion Cat was murdered in the saga? That Hafufu happened online? Jesus Christ, I've never seen somebody was going. What's happened? Why? The favorite character of the saga just died.
Well, it's a good character for sure.
Lion
I'm
Cat
curious.
Was nice. Yeah.
See what happens with it.
My thought when reading Saga is it was like I picked it up and it was exactly as I remembered it,
Wow.
Right.
And I think that my only thing against Saga is it's overly familiar, even after 3 years. It's like I'm kind of used to looking for new, exciting comics, which is shallow of me, but I'll definitely keep getting Saga. It's only $2.99 also. And it was a double-sized issue.
Oh.
Right.
AFPC is faceless, which is sad. So
sorry to hear that.
I'm going to start a GoFundMe to get him a face.
Yeah.
You're going to be those
face, though, that's in his avatar.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. It looks like someone's drawing of Carla from Cheers.
Yes, it does look like her, like a lot now.
I wonder if AFPC drew it himself. There's something strange about the eyes, like they're rolled up a little bit.
Yeah.
We got a link here.
For the Alan Moore.
Is it about Alan Moore?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, he's from Face Off.
Responding to Don Simpson talking about 1963. Right.
So who is he? Nicolas Cage or John Travolta?
Well, he keeps switching faces. No one knows anymore.
He's a mashup of both of them.
Wow.
Next week, I'm going to have Terrence's face. Ross is going to have my face, and Terrence is going to have Ross's face. No one will know who's who.
Sounds good.
And AFPC will be a guest, even if he doesn't know it.
So just put the Nicholas, whatever the actor's face, and then you go. We have you.
And Misso talked about having Gore Vidal on, and yes, that hopefully will happen. We're going to keep pushing. We'll keep mentioning it. We'll keep talking about it.
There's
someday
technical difficulties there. Does he need a new computer?
Possibly. Maybe we should start a GoFundMe.
Yeah, GoFundMe for a face and a computer.
That's right.
Exactly. Just a couple of things. It's not going to cost you an arm and a leg.
Not an arm. Later, we'll have the arm and the leg GoFundMe.
Right.
Okay, everyone, thanks for joining us. The regular crew of commenters were fantastic. Go back and read all the comments as we're talking, because we didn't get to all of them.
Yeah,
I missed so many this week.
And any of you of our regular commenters who would like to do a guest appearance, let us know.
Go on.
With or without your face.
We don't bite.
You could just show an arm and a leg.
There's this side or this side of me that, at least on my screen, there's blanks, there's room. I could just shift over a little and there'd be room for you.
Anyway, good night, everyone, or good afternoon,
Later.
or wherever you are. We'll talk again soon.
Bye.